The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Corporal Avery Hillman, 50 years old, Crisp County Sheriff's Office, Georgia. End of watch, October 31st. Corporal Hillman died from complications of contracting COVID-19 while on duty at Crisp Regional Hospital. Corporal Hillman served with the Crisp County Sheriff's Office for 30 years. Lieutenant Lloyd Ray Ham, 52 years old, Richland Parish Sheriff's Office, Louisiana. End of watch, November 2nd. Lieutenant Ham died from complications of contracting COVID-19 as the result of a confirmed exposure while on duty. Lieutenant Ham served with the Richland County Sheriff's Office for 17 years and is survived by his wife and 3 children. Police Officer Marshall Waters, Jr., 49 years old, Mangum Police Department, Louisiana. End of watch, November 5th. Police Officer Waters succumbed to a gunshot wound sustained on October 17, 2020, while conducting a traffic stop. The vehicle had just been stolen during an armed commercial robbery in Rayville. As Officer Waters stepped from his patrol car, the driver of the vehicle shot him once in the abdomen. The round struck Officer Waters below his vest and damaged his femoral artery. The man fled the scene and was arrested in Franklin Parish several hours later. Officer Waters was a part-time officer and a full-time EMT for the Northeast Louisiana Ambulance Service. Sergeant Sean Rios, 47 years old, Houston Police Department, Texas. End of watch, November 9th. Sergeant Rios was on his way to work yesterday when he responded to a call for help, where shots were reportedly fired and someone was hit. Sergeant Rios responded to the scene, engaged the subject, and exchanged gunfire and was shot. Sergeant Rios fled to a nearby motel where he collapsed and died. Sergeant Rios was a 25-year veteran and is survived by his wife and 4 children between the ages of 9 and 17. There have been 74 line-of-duty deaths on this day in history, dating back to 1837, when 2nd Lieutenant Alfred Miles of the Texas Rangers and 9 of his men were killed in a fight with about 150 Indians they were chasing for stealing horses. 8 Rangers escaped without horses, food, or provisions and walked for 17 days through the wilderness until they came upon a settlement. I want you guys to think about that the next time you get a foot poster that you don't like. We're now going to take a moment of silence to honor all the police officers, firefighters and first responders, and veterans that have given their lives in the line of duty. Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Blue Room Podcast, where we have the right to remain silent, but
that ain't happening.
Oh, Christian said that ain't happening. Can we make him remain silent? Just
well, we can.
We can?
No, please.
All right, guys. Houston PD lost 4 cops in the last 11 months and 2 in the last few weeks. I think just last week we spoke about the Sergeant Preston, who was shot on a domestic just a few weeks away from his retirement. So they have about 5,300 officers in Houston Police Department. So like I often do, I translate those numbers to the NYPD. All right, because that's what I know. Houston Police Department losing 4 cops in a year is like the NYPD losing 26.
Wow.
Like, those numbers are just staggering. All right, I don't think the NYPD had a line of duty death in the last 12 months that wasn't COVID or 9/11 related.
Knock on wood.
Yeah. So Houston, you guys are definitely in our thoughts and prayers. But Texas always leads the league, unfortunately, in line of duty deaths. I guess it's the density and the size of the state. They have 53 deaths. The state of Texas has 53 line of duty deaths right now, and the next closest state is Louisiana with 16. Damn. 53 in the state of Texas, but four in Houston's a lot. 1 in Houston is a lot. So, guys, just be aware of that. Keep your head on a swivel, obviously, and watch each other back. I would like to take a few minutes to remind our listeners that yesterday was the 23rd anniversary of the line of duty death of Officer Dewey Joe Sherbo III, 31 years old, of the Newark Police Department. Most of you are going to ask, what's the significance of this officer when there's probably been thousands that were killed in the line of duty on that day? Over the course of 230 years or so, and I'll tell you. So Dewey Sherbo is the father of BBO member Joe Sherbo. So if you listeners know Joe Sherbo, Jersey guy, he fought in the Blue Beefs, good dude. I think
he actually beat up our engineer.
I think he might have beat up our engineer that day.
Allegedly.
Right?
Allegedly.
Yeah, he did.
Allegedly.
He did.
Joe was 4 years old when his dad was taken from us. It was 1997, and Dewey had done they were chasing a stolen vehicle, and another vehicle intentionally rammed his car, causing severe injuries that led to his demise. Joe went on to put himself through the Essex County Police Academy, where he paid for his own training. He paid for his own gear in order that he could be a volunteer at the Essex County Sheriff's Office. He paid for his own training so that he could volunteer his services in the Essex County Sheriff's Office. But it's obviously it's in his blood. I don't know if you guys know that Joe's grandfather and uncle are both retired Newark PD captains, and his godfather was a Newark cop. Joe was then hired by Cranford Police,
Correct.
and then has since moved on to Broward County Sheriff's Office, where he is currently working. Joe, listen, man, we don't forget our own. God bless you and your mom. And I think he has a sibling too, right? Another sister.
Yep.
We're thinking about you guys today. Tough times, man. So stay safe and God bless. Do we have our guest on the phone? I'm going to crack open a Big Oyster Brewery Survivors IPA. The guy that owns Survivors IPA, Dennis, is going to be here a little bit later on, and he was generous enough to come and share his wares with us. I always like when we have a guest that has alcohol that actually enjoys cigars. So
I wonder why.
It's a good trade. It's a good trade-off because I don't know if you guys have been following what's going on, but the Line of Duty 470 is back in stock. www.lineofdutycigars.com. And I'm going to fire it up right now before we take our caller.
There you go. Light it up real good right there. Like a torch.
Yeah. Like a torch.
Like a torch.
All right, our caller's on. Joe, you on?
Yes, sir.
Hey, how you doing, sir?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Fine, thank you.
Listeners, I don't know if most of our listeners will know this reference to the movie Donnie Brasco, but Joe Pistone, it was Donnie Brasco movie that the part that Johnny Depp played was modeled after the work that Joe Pistone done on those cases, back in was it the 80s?
80s, yeah,
80s.
Early 80s.
So thank you so much for taking the time to come on and share your stories with us. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
We filmed the show in Heldon, which is right next to Patterson, which is where you grew up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so we're in your old stomping grounds right now.
We're at in Heldon.
Was it Broadway?
Belmont Ave.
Belmont Ave?
Oh,
Yep.
Belmont Ave. Yep. No,
Yep.
well.
Yeah, so that's where we're sitting right now, enjoying some cigars and beer.
Lucky you.
Yeah, exactly. But what folks don't know...
I'm enjoying a nice tea.
Tea? What time is it? Bedtime already?
No.
So, we are often, I've seen a lot of the interviews that you've done, and obviously we know your story, but what folks don't know is that you were a teacher before you went to the FBI, and you also worked at the Office of Naval Intelligence.
That's correct. I taught for 1 year, waiting to get into naval intelligence. That's correct.
And you how long were you in Naval Intelligence?
I was in naval intelligence for 2 years, and then I got hired by the FBI.
So you started in '69 in Jacksonville. So when they hired you, did they tell you were going to Jacksonville, or did you choose to go to that office?
No, you don't choose to go anywhere in the FBI. You go where they tell you to go. And I don't know what week you're in training. I don't know if it's the 11th, 12th, 13th week, and they tell you what office that you're assigned to.
Do they even give you a list of options? Like, these are your 3 dream picks. This is where I'd like to go, or it's just nope.
Well, you get that after you're in a few years. When you're in, I don't know, maybe 10 years, and then they call it an office of preference, and you list 3 offices, and chances are you won't get any of them. But
yeah, we know the feeling.
Unless you put down New York, put down New York.
Nobody wants to go
you
there.
Got a shot that it's 100% that you're going.
Either that, or you got a rabbi somewhere looking out for you, right?
Well, it's kind of tough. I have to say, in the bureau, yeah, we had rabbis and everything, but the transfer thing is kind of hard for a rabbi, just for a street agent, you know.
Uh-huh.
It might work if you're a supervisor or something, but just for a brick agent, it didn't work too well.
So what kind of work were you doing in Jacksonville?
Jacksonville, I was doing general criminal work, bank robberies, fugitives, 31 cases, which at the time, prostitution, working pimps, bringing girls across the state line for the purpose of prostitution, but mostly fugitives and bank robberies. And back in '69 and '70, Jacksonville was like a Wild West. I mean, they had more gangsters in Jacksonville than anywhere in the country, really. So it was a good first office assignment, really.
Good place to make your bones, huh?
Yes, it was. Yep.
And what led for your transfer to New York City? Was that something that you asked for, or someone thought, hey, you know what, this guy will fit in?
After Jacksonville, I was in Jacksonville for over a year, and back at that time, you only stayed in your first office maybe 13 or 14 months, and then they transferred you. And then my second office was Alexandria, Virginia, and which was a good office because again you had a lot of crime crossover between Washington D.C. and Virginia. And after a couple of years, then I requested I put in for New York. Yeah.
To just get closer to where you came from, or just you're looking for just a different scene?
Well, I was just looking for more work. And what I mean by that is, look, you guys know New York's the center of the universe, you know, and especially for crime. And back in the 70s and 80s, I mean, New York was, if you wanted to work the streets, that's where you wanted to go. So that's why I put in for New York.
Yeah, I guess on both sides. If you're a criminal and you wanted to work, this is where you went. And if you're a cop and you wanted to work, this is where you went. Right? It was a good relationship.
Exactly.
It was a good working relationship you had.
Yeah.
Everybody
Yes,
eats.
Yes,
Everyone was eating.
Has much really changed? I mean, honestly.
Well, I guess Jacksonville's probably not as bad as it was, right?
No, not like it used to be, but it's still a pretty active office as far as criminal activities. Yeah.
So you get to New York. You went to the hijacking squad. So your work there was probably a lot of airport stuff, right? I would think JFK.
Yeah, I went to the hijacking squad, and as you know, I mean, I'm assuming you guys know that back in the day, all hijackers were controlled by the mafia. No matter if Joe Shit the Right Man stole the truck, it was going to end up in the mafia's hands. So, and at that time, we probably were losing, I don't know, 4 or 5 loads a day. And, these are all high-end loads, pharmaceuticals, coffee, shrimp. I mean, every load probably worth, $6 to $8 million. So we had a very active squad. I mean, we worked 3 shifts, generally 7 days a week on that squad. That was a very, very active squad. Yeah, I was lucky enough. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I said, you talk about a rabbi. That's where I was lucky enough that I did have a rabbi, and he was the supervisor of the hijacking squad. Gentleman by the name of Guy Barato was a New Yorker himself, and had done some undercover work, and that's how I became friendly with him, because I had started doing undercover work in Jacksonville, and undercover work in Alexandria, so Guy got to know me through my undercover activities because there weren't many agents in the bureau at that time that were doing undercover. So when I requested my transfer to New York, I called Guy and told him I was requesting a transfer, and he got me on his squad. So talk about a rabbi. I did use a rabbi.
My uncle, back, I'm going back in those the 80s into the early 90s. My uncle was a truck driver for an outfit out of JFK. He was the shop steward. And every time we went out to his house out in Long Island, it was always, here, take a watch out of this box. What size code are you? And as a kid, I didn't know any better. And then as I got older and I became a cop, and I was talking with my mom, and I was like, where did Uncle Blah? How come every time we went out there? And she's like, really? Like, you didn't know? I was like, wow. First, I was a kid. How would I know? But I would just remember every trip. And it wasn't loads of stuff. It wasn't fancy stuff. It was crap. It was like a box of Swatch watches or knockoff handbags or something.
Wait a minute. Swatch watches were crap?
Back then.
You know what?
I don't think so.
But every time we went to his house, we walked away with something.
Maybe knockoff, yeah, they're crap, but not the original Swatch watch.
So you obviously got in there as the gemologist. You were supposed to be the guy that could move the diamonds and I guess the gold and whatnot. Who decided on that was going to be the angle that you were going to take?
Well, it was between myself and the supervisor, Guy Dorado, and you have to have an undercover. You got to have a profession that doesn't tend to lead to violence. I mean, because as an undercover agent, you're not supposed to get involved in violence, except if it's against you or
threatened or something.
As far as criminal activities, you're not supposed to get involved in criminal activities that are of a violent nature. So we figured, a jewel thief. Number one, a jewel thief you can operate alone.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to go out with a whole crew. And I could bring around, if I was lucky enough to infiltrate, I could bring around diamonds and precious gems and say I pulled a score anywhere.
Yeah.
And but again, when you go into an undercover role, you have to know your profession. I mean, because that's how most undercovers get exposed. Is they say they're A, B, and C, and they don't know squat about A, B, and C. So I went to school, learned about diamonds, precious gems, spent time with a friendly jeweler and his diamond guy, and you take another step. If you're a jewel thief, what do you have to know?
Yeah,
you got to know how to pick locks, right? You got to know how to defeat alarm systems. You got to know how to, you got to know something about safes.
Sure. It's like a burglary, right? You got to know all the tricks to burglary.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can't say because again, if you're lucky enough to infiltrate a group and they're active, and you say you're, whatever you say you are, they're going to use you in some way.
Mm-hmm. So
that was the first step, is becoming educated in the facet of being a jewel thief. And then once I felt comfortable after a few months, and this operation was strictly a cold operation. We didn't do anything with contacts, informants. I went out and rented my own apartment, in Manhattan. Went out and bought a car. Everything was in the undercover mode.
So it was all very generic. It wasn't like how do you build that backstory? I know you have guys that might vouch for you along the lines of something, but it's not like you'd go and sit in the social club, right, or the bar, and just start talking to people. Like it doesn't. How did that backstory get built?
Well, it got built by me. Look, you have to know who your target group. my main thing is you have to know your enemy. If you don't know your enemy, in our business, in the undercover business, if you don't know your enemy, you're not gonna make contact with him. Once you do make contact with him, you're not gonna infiltrate him or ingratiate yourself with him if you don't know anything about him. And with the mafia, you don't just walk into a social club or one of their bars or restaurants and say, "Hey, I'm Donnie Brasco, and I'm a jewel thief, and I want to hang with you guys."
Here's my resume.
That doesn't work. So, and again, I was lucky enough that I was in New York, and New York kind of does things different than the rest of the FBI. And what I mean by that is, they get the whole, they get the whole picture, so we knew that it was going to take time. So that the idea was, hey, just hit these restaurants, hit these bars. We knew where these guys hung out, and hopefully you can get into conversation with somebody and go from there. And all I did probably for about 6 months that's all I did.
So it was all you building that yourself, just hanging out in the right places. People see your name, you strike up conversations here and there, and you're able to BS your way in, and obviously, like I said, you were educated in the field that you were trying to represent. So
and it's funny because I never told anybody I was a jewel thief, and again, you're doing a cold entry. So, and again, I go back to this all the time. I teach a lot of undercover schools, and my main thing is you have to know your enemy. You got to know everything about your enemy. And in our business, your enemy is the group you're obviously attempting to infiltrate. Do they have rules and regulations? And every criminal group has rules. For example, in the mafia, right? Simple rules. They like to see you neat at all times. All right, they don't want to see you dressing like a slob.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want mustaches, beards, long hair. They just want you neat.
Christian would never ever be able to be in the mob, Christian, by the way, because you are a slob.
Yeah.
This guy, no, he would get made in a minute.
No, I'll be a great assassin if I was in the mob.
All right, Chris, you give it up.
Sorry, Joe. Joe.
But that's a rule that that if you don't abide by, it's a sign of disrespect, and
I agree.
But you should know the rules that'll get you killed.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the rules that'll get you killed is you never insult a made guy in front of other people. I mean, that can get you killed. If I'm in a beef with a made guy, and I'm not a made guy, and I insult him and there's other people around, well, he has the right to kill me. Then you take a step further. I mean, these are good things for undercover agents to know. During his beef, he gives you a smack. Are you going to stand there and take it? Chances in your real life, you're not gonna.
Mm-hmm.
But in that life, if you're not a made guy and a made guy gives you a smack, you got to keep your hands off him.
You take your smack.
You don't lay your hands on him. You don't lay your hands on a made guy. And the other thing is too is you don't steal money from the family. That'll get you killed. You don't talk to the cops. You don't become a snitch. That'll get you killed. So these are all things you should know, because when you get close to your target group, look, everybody doesn't like everybody. It's not a kumbaya world, is it?
Uh-huh.
I mean, we're finding that out right now with so-called legitimate people, right? In that world, there's a lot of jealousy. Guy might not like you because you're closer to the boss than he is. He thinks you're making more money than he is. So just, it's just a normal way of life with these guys, that there's a lot of jealousy goes on.
Well, that's real life
So
anyway,
you
right?
have-
People get themselves all twisted up
exactly.
for those same
Yeah,
exact reasons. It doesn't get you killed, but
Yeah, but these things will get you killed. With these guys, and then again, you have to know, like every group, like the mob, has certain phrases that are street phrases that the normal person wouldn't use. So to cut to the chase here, one of the places I hung around, after about 6 months. And another rule that'll get you killed is you don't fool around with a made guy's wife, daughter, or girlfriend. That'll get you killed.
that should get you killed though.
Yeah, right. I mean, honestly,
Agreed.
but keeping track of the gooms. I mean, that can't be easy. Keeping
Yeah.
track of the gooms, though. I mean, that's.
So you're.
I mean,
I'm sorry. So you get transferred.
What?
You know when you get transferred that your intent is infiltrating the mafia, right? That when you
not when I get transferred.
when you get to New York, you're not.
I had
That wasn't.
No, I had gone out when I got to New York. I was in New York maybe about a month and a half, and I got another assignment. I did a year and a half undercover out of Florida, where I infiltrated a group of car thieves that ran up and down the East Coast, stealing high-end automobiles to order. In other words, you came to us and you said, "Hey, I want a Mercedes. All right, what color you want? What do you want on the inside? What extras you want?" And then we go out and hook it. We take it to our shop, fix up the VIN numbers, get legitimate papers, and sell it. So you might have a $60,000 car. We sell it to you for 20.
Can I get a Lamborghini for 80?
Well, we probably could have.
I guess then you could have gotten anything.
I did that for a year and a half. And then after that, then when I went back to New York, after that undercover job, that's when my supervisor, Guy Barada, had come up with this undercover idea. So I what I did was I got in with a bartender, actually. And what happened was you guys got time for the story?
Dude, we got all the time in the world, Joe. It's all you, brother.
Oh. So I was in and out of this place, like 6 months. And another thing too with these type of operations, it's not a 5-day-a-week job. It's got to be 7 days a week because they see you Monday to Friday, and then they never see you Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah, what are you doing?
What's the program with this guy? So that's another thing too. It's a 7-day-a-week job. But I was going in this one place, and it actually was a Lucchese hangout. And once a week, I don't remember if it was Wednesday, Thursday, the wise guys would have dinner with their gumadas. For your listeners, that's their girlfriends, right? So
Allegedly.
I go in there one night, and I always sat at the bar, and I'm not a drinker, so my big drink, I either had a glass of red wine or a bottle of beer. That's my limit of drinking for a night. But at any rate, I would sit at the bar and order my meal and have something, and never had any conversation with anybody. Never had a conversation with the bartender other than, "What do you want to eat?" And just normal conversation. So I'm in there one night, and everybody's there, but there's one guy's missing. But the young lady that he was with was there. I saw her there, and I'm sitting at the bar, and she gets up, goes to the ladies' room, and on the way back, she passes me, and she says hello, and I say hello. Well, the first thing I do after that is I call the bartender over. And I know what his name is, but I don't call him by his name because I was never introduced to him. So I just call him over and I say to him, "I just want to go on record. You guys work New York, that's a mob term. I want to go on record." I said to him, "Hey, I want to go on record. I didn't ask that lady, to stop and say hello to me or anything. And he just nods his head, doesn't say squat. Now, this happens like 3 more times. And each time I call him over. And the other times now, this young lady stops and engages me in conversation. So I can't blow her off because I don't want to insult her because I don't know what the story is. So, but after each time, I call him over and I say, I just want you to know, I want to go on record again. I don't have any interest in that young lady. She's stopping and talking to me, and I don't. And then finally, after like the 3rd or 4th time, he says to me, "Look," he said, "if you want to talk to her, you can talk to her. Her boyfriend went bye-bye." Well, I didn't take that to mean he went to Disney World,
Yeah.
So I said, well, I still don't have any interest in it. Well, now, what does that put in this guy's head? Hey, this guy's a street guy. He knows, at least he knows what's going on the street. So now, at least he starts talking to me. When I come in, he says hiya, but before he never said hiya. And we're talking about what's on TV, sports, what's on TV, talking about the city, what a shithole the city is, blah, 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 blah. And then one day he says to me, "Hey, my name is Charlie." I said, "My name is Don." And that's another thing, too. These guys, they don't introduce themselves by their full name. Nobody on the street says, "Hey, I'm Donnie Brasco," so that's another thing, too. It's just little things like that. So then after, a few more weeks, he says to me one night, he says, "Hey, you like to gamble?" And I said, "Yeah, I like to gamble." And he said, "When I close up, I'm going to an after-hours joint. You want to come?" I said, "Sure." So we go to this place, and there's all mob guys there. It's a mob crap game. And he never introduced me to anybody, and nobody questions me because I'm with him. So now we go a couple of weeks longer, and I say, well, now, and we never talk anything, any illegal stuff, nothing. So now I figure, well, now's the time to set the hook, set the bait out there. So I come in one night, I got a packet of diamonds, and I just said, "Hey, Charlie, I got this package here." They were in an envelope, I did wrap them and everything. I don't tell them they're diamonds. I just says, "Hey, I got this package here, and I need to get X amount of money for it." Well, they're not. It's not the Tiffany price; it's the street price.
Mm-hmm.
But I leave some room so he can make.
You can make a little vig on that, yeah.
Yeah. So he takes it. And he says, "Okay," and he puts it under the bar. A couple of weeks go by. I never say anything. He doesn't say anything. Then one night he comes in. I come in, and he says, "Hey, Donnie, somebody left this package for you, this envelope." I take it, put it in my sport coat, and when I get home, it's what I ask. But now, when we go to the games, he's introducing me as Don the Jeweler. Because
yeah, sure.
you got to figure these diamonds are hot. So now he's I'm Don the Jeweler, and
you have to have a nickname, right?
Yep.
Everyone's got a nickname.
Well, yeah, everybody. So, and I hooked up with a guy, a Colombo guy, that was friends of his. And after a couple of meetings with this guy, he says, "Hey, why don't you come out to my club out in Brooklyn?" I said, "Yeah." So I go out and I start hanging around with the Colombos for a while, for a few months, and then I got into a beef with two guys in that crew, which became physical. And after that, I knew that I couldn't go out to Brooklyn anymore because I was never going to rectify anything with. One guy was a made guy and one guy wasn't a made guy, and they called me out. and we had like a 4.5 hour sit down one day, and it basically because I turned down some scores that they wanted to do. They had gotten out of jail, and they had some scores lined up, and we went out and cased them. And I said, "Well, I can't bypass that alarm system." And the other one, I said, "I can't do that. That's safe." And because you got to be a real guy. I mean, if you say you can do everything, then there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
And that pissed them off. So I get to the club one day, and Jilly, who was the boss, says, "We got to take a walk and talk, Donnie." So I said, "What's up?" He said, "Well," I said, "Patsy wants to have a sit down." "Why?" "Well, because I told him what a great thief you are and everything, and you turned down their 2 scores." And I said, "Hey, what can I tell you? If I can't do something, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to say I can do something that I can't do." So we go into the back room of the club. They lock the door. Patsy puts his gun on the table, and he says, "Donnie," he said, if you don't convince me that you're as good as Jilly says you are, the only way you're going out of this room is rolled up in that rug." Well,
right to the point,
so
right?
for 4.5 hours. Pardon?
I said he was right to the point.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he sure was. So for but again, you got to be who you got to be. So hey, give me a name of somebody in Florida that you did business with. Give me a name of somebody in California. I said, "I'm not giving you a name of anybody. I'm not telling you, who I thieved with in Florida or who I thieved with in California." I said, "Look, you just got out of the can. How do I know you didn't? You didn't become a snitch in a can. I don't know anything about you. All I know is that Jilly tells me, who these guys are with me, with him." I said, "But you've been away for 5 years." I said, "I don't know you." I said, "So I'm not giving you the name of anybody." So this goes back and forth, and then finally Jilly says, "Hey, this is all over. Donnie's been with us for 2-3 months, whatever it was, and everything's cool. It's sit down's over." But the problem now is that they called you out. This guy called you out. So you can't shake his hand. You can't shake his hand and say, "Hey,
It's all good.
I understand I understand that everything's okay, blah blah blah," because then it's why isn't Donnie pissed off at us? So I got a problem here, and the only problem, the only way to rectify this is a little physical, and I can't do anything to Frankie because to Patsy, because Patsy's a made guy, but Frankie's not. So as we get up and walk out, I just clock Frankie. I put him down, and then I start wailing on him, and Patsy starts wailing on me, but I can't do anything because I can't.
You can't strike Patsy.
I can't strike Patsy. So, but then they break it up, and I tell Jilly later. I say to Jilly, let's take a walk. And I said, "Jilly, look, you've been good to me, everything, but I can't come back out here because nothing's going to be right with these 2 guys, and it can lead nothing but problems."
So yeah, let's go to Howard. Let's go to Howard Beach and work with those guys, right?
Well, I had met Tony Mira, who was a Bonanno guy at the games, and he was from Little Italy, and so I start going down to Little Italy and hanging out down there. That's how I got in with the Bonannos. And then Mira had been out on parole, and then they put him back in the can, and that's how I got hooked up with Lefty Ruggiero, who was another Bonanno from Little Italy.
Well, Mira's kids, didn't they do? They had a lot to do with like San Gennaro and stuff like that. Yeah. Mira's
Who's that,
Mira.
Bonanno?
Oh, Mira. Didn't he?
Yeah.
Big hookup.
Well, back in the day, every family had a piece of San Gennaro. What they had was each family had certain blocks that they controlled, and anybody that had a booth on that particular block, they had to pay the mafia family, which whoever block that was. So that's how that worked until Giuliani broke that up.
So you meet Lefty down there, and that's how you hook up with him. I was like Mulberry Street, that area. What's going on?
Yeah.
But no one knows. No one knows what you're doing. Like the guy, like your wife, obviously didn't know the level of what the work that you were doing. Your friends in Jacksonville and Alexandria, guys that you work with, you just went off the grid, and no one like.
Yeah,
wasn't there a little buzz there? Like where the hell did Joe go?
Yeah, well, I was in New York, and lucky, New York is onto itself. I mean, there's at the time, I don't know, there might have been 1,200 agents in New York, and guys are so busy doing their own work and shit that then they don't see a guy for a couple of weeks or a couple of months. Nobody's worrying about you, And I had been gone a year and a half on another undercover operation. So nobody really missed me when I didn't show up, because they figured, well, he's just out on another operation somewhere, But and at that time, Carmine Galenti was the boss of the family, and Ruggiero was under a capo by the name of Mike Sabella. You guys might know Casabella Restaurant on Mulberry, and right. Well, that was Mike's restaurant.
Well, Galante, wasn't Galante the guy with the picture of him with the cigar in his mouth?
Right, with the cigar. Yeah.
So it's funny. I've seen that picture so many times. And there's two takes here. I mean, the odds of him getting shot. He was in like a back patio area of a restaurant, like a small little backyard, right. and they come in, and they kill him. And the cigar stays in his mouth. And there's two trains of thought. For me, I'm like, well, as a cop, I say there's no way that cigar stayed in his mouth after he got shot. But cops being sick sons of bitches that we are, I'm thinking someone put that cigar in his mouth. Right? Some cop came in there and probably put it in his mouth so they could take a picture with him or something.
That's what I think. I mean, I wasn't there, so I don't know, but I think that's a thing. Nobody ever fessed up to it. Not even any agents that I know were there, but that's the consensus that
that's funny.
Either a cop or an agent stuck that cigar in his mouth. But after they whacked him, what happened is that, like I say, Mike Sabella was a capo, and he was our capo, and Nicky Marangella was the underboss, and they went to these guys, and they told Mike and Nicky, look, either you step down or we're gonna whack you guys too, because there was a lot of friction, and so they stepped down. And they appointed Rusty Rostelli, who was in the can. They appointed him the boss, which he was. He was the underboss at one time, and then he was the boss. So, but he's in the can. So they when I say they, I'm talking about the administration of the family. So they moved me and Lefty out to Brooklyn to be under Sonny Black Napolitano, who was a capo after the whack, because he was one of the originators, in on whacking Galenti.
Well, didn't Indelicati get arrested for that Galante years later?
Yeah, Bruno.
Yeah, the kid, right, the son.
The son. He was one of the shooters. Yeah, and they made him a captain too. But they put me and Lefty under under Sonny Black Napolitano out in Greenpoint. That was his territory, and so that's.
And the movie, when they talk about Ruggiero, like he was a. I mean, they make him out to be like a soft, kind of a softy in that movie, right? I mean, but he had bodies, right? He had bodies on him.
Oh yeah, he did. He did.
And sorry,
that you know how they make movies is
they take their liberties.
30%.
Yeah, and everybody has a
artistic
take on it. I mean, Ruggiero was actually a very sharp dresser, and I don't know. You saw the movie. You see how Al dressed in the beginning and everything.
Mm-hmm.
That he, as the movie progressed, then he started to dress better. I mean, that's what's in actors' heads, But Lefty was always a sharp dresser, and Lefty had some bodies to his. He had a body count, believe me.
Yeah.
And he was. I got to say, he was a mob encyclopedia. He schooled me more on the mafia than anybody. As far as the history,
the way things got done, things like that.
The way things got done, yeah. I mean, he was a treasure trove of information, and history, and names, and places and dates. I mean.
And for you, I mean, he actually became your rabbi. I mean, think about it. You're coming in there, you're doing what you're doing, and you land at this guy's doorstep, and he's giving you almost like you could say to him, "Hey, look, I'm trying to get in. Talk to me," and he just gives you everything.
Yeah, everything.
Home run.
I mean, about the wars, about the Sicilians. Because the Bonannos had a Sicilian faction. Told me all about the Sicilian faction, the beefs between the Americans and the Sicilians, and who was the boss of the Sicilians. He identified Sicilians that the FBI knew about this, but they couldn't put names to anybody. So I put names to guys, the Sicilians. All through him, and Mirror before Mirror went to the can, and then once Mirror got out of the can, he and I weren't on good terms. In fact, he tried to have me whacked 3 times. Mirror.
Like, does he has to ask permission for that? So someone said no.
Oh yeah. Well, they had 3 sit downs, and luckily Sonny Black won the 3 sit downs, because. I tell you, there's a lot of jealousy and envy. Well, when Mirror gets out of the can, I mean, I was riding pretty high with the Bonannos. I had him, I had brought him out to Milwaukee, and we had infiltrated the Milwaukee family, and I had engineered a marriage between the Bonannos and the Milwaukee family. And then I had engineered a marriage between the Bonannos and Santo Trafficani in Florida through other undercover operations that the FBI had going on. So he thought I was, making this ton of money, and he wanted in on it. And like I say, I was riding pretty high with the Bonannos. I mean, I was right there with Sonny Black, as Sonny Black was one of the street bosses because Rusty was in a can.
Well, I'll tell you, the movie highlighted the operation. Like, the movie highlighted. I honestly think they did a really poor job of portraying you, like telling your story. What you did, your sacrifices. The movie The Departed, the DiCaprio character, they really concentrated on his involvement. And I've seen the movie a couple of times, and I keep going back to it. I'm like, I know at the end of the movie, and in reality, at the end of the operation, the FBI did kind of give you, hey, here's a pat on the back, good job, kid, and didn't give you the recognition that you deserved. And I feel like the movie kind of did the same thing. And I think if they made that today, it would be a completely different animal. Like, the story, I mean,
Yeah, and
back
I
in the
think-
80s and 90s, everything was about the mafia. All these movies, the Don this, the Don that. They were, TV made for TV, TV this, movie that. They had such a killer cast in the Donnie Brasco that I really feel they could have done so much more with you, on you. Like, that, you're the story here. The mafia didn't change over 50 years. You're the story.
Yeah. And I think too that I would have liked to have seen more about the Milwaukee operation and the Florida operation, because I mean that's historic. And what I mean by historic is that if you know the mafia, I mean, to marry up two different families from New York to Milwaukee and New York to Miami, I mean, it's hard to explain the maneuvers that I had to go through, because if you know the mafia, the rule is the families don't engage in other families' territories, and just to get a sit down with another mafia, like, give an example. Yeah, the FBI has this undercover operation going in Milwaukee, right? So it's there, but it's not. So my boss comes up with an idea. You think you can get the Bonannos out there? Well, Jesus, give me a break.
Yeah,
right?
let's wrap them all up together. Like, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah. So my first thing is, tell me who the undercover agent is, because in this profession, the only person that saves your life is yourself. No SWAT team, no SEAL team, no Delta Force. Nobody's saving your life.
Mm-hmm.
You're saving your own life. And if I don't know who the undercover is, I don't care if he's an FBI agent or not. If I don't know him, I'm not trusting my life to him. But I knew the undercover agent because I had done other undercover operations with him. And, and it's like anything else. You don't know every undercover operation that's going on because, everyone's a need-to-know basis. So once I find out who it was, I said, oh, yeah, were you kidding? I mean, like I said, I've done other undercover jobs with him. So I said, but you got to let me, proceed my own way, because I'm just not going to sit down with the lefty and say, hey, let's go out to Milwaukee and see this deal, So I dropped hints, like one day I just say to him, hey, left, I say, I got a call from a guy that did a lot of work with out of Baltimore. We used to steal a lot of artwork, and he tells me he's in Milwaukee, and that's it. And he just nods his head, Well, a couple of days go by, and I say, look, remember I told you about that guy who called me? He tells me he has a business out there, and he says, what kind of business? I said, he's got a vending machine business. His first words are, is he fucking crazy? They'll blow him up out there. I said, I don't know. I said, he just told me he's got a vending machine business and wants me to come out and help him. So he says, how well you know this guy? I says, well, I knew him 10 years ago. Am I going to vouch for him? I'll vouch for him for 10 years ago. And that's another thing too. I always made it their decision. I said, I vouched for him 10 years ago, but I haven't seen him in 10 years. But he was a stand-up guy then, solid guy then.
They'll put you on the
So
hook
he said,
for
well,
him. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he says, well, call him, see what he's got. So, I said, well, he's got an office, he's got trucks, he's got machines. But every place he goes, they turn him down. And he says, tell him to send us two tickets to go out there. So we get 2 airline tickets and go out and show him around. you know, Tony takes it around that he had, you know, he has office, he has a big warehouse, he's got machines, you know, he's got the whole Megillah, got the whole set. So now our move is we have to go back to New York and we got to sit down with our captain, right? We got to explain to our captain the deal. And he says, okay, now we got to talk to the consigliere of the Bonannos. And we explained to him the deal. Now, the thing is, here's the first line. Now, remember, Tony has been with us for 10 years. We didn't just meet him through Donnie. He's been associated with the Bonannos for 10 years. Because if they say they just met him, then they'll say, well,
yeah, we're not doing this.
He's ours. Yeah, he's ours. He's not yours if you just met him. So, but this is the way it has to go now. So now, our consigliere, who was, his name was Bobby Badhart. Why do you think his name was Bobby Badhart?
Congestive heart failure? I don't know.
Allegedly.
Exactly right. He had
too much mayonnaise? I don't know.
So he has to call the consigliere in Chicago because even though Milwaukee has its own family, Milwaukee's hooked up with Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
So he has to explain to the consigliere in Chicago this whole Megillah. That there's a guy out there by the name of Tony. He been a Bonanno. He's been associated with the Bonannos for 10 years. He wants to start a vending machine business. Blah 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 blah. And we like to sit down with Frank Balistrieri, because he's the boss in Milwaukee, and he controls all the vending machines in Wisconsin. That's, you know. So after a couple of weeks, Chicago gets back to us and says, okay, we talked to Milwaukee. You guys go out there, check into this hotel, and wait for a phone call. So me and Lefty fly to Milwaukee, check into a hotel, stay there for like 2 or 3 days, and finally get a phone call. All right, meet us at such and such a restaurant at such a time. And so we meet with the boss. Now, that's another thing, too. You don't ever meet with a boss, I mean, in the mafia, unless you really, you know, unless you really got some drag. And now, you know, here, me and the other undercover were sitting down with the boss of the family, the underboss, his consigliere, and his 2 sons, who were made guys. And we lay out the whole scam, you know, and they said, okay, we'll let you know. A few days later, they say, okay, we're partners. Now, it's up to them to decide what the split is because it's their territory. And the deal was, all right, you guys, you know, Tony, you can have this section, you know, get your machines in there. You do all the work. We're not doing any of the work. You do all the work. And it's a 50-50 split. Well, that's okay, you know, for the Bonannos, because now they now they got, you know, income coming in from
Milwaukee,
someplace else.
Sure. And they do nothing. There's no obligation.
No, nothing.
All they do is get an envelope. They get an envelope. That's it.
That's it. And the same thing happened in Florida. The FBI had an undercover operation. It was a nightclub. The same thing. They were getting half-ass wise guys. They called me again. Hey, you know, you think you can do the same thing here as you did in
Jesus.
in Milwaukee? And I said, well, you know, it's not going to be that, hey, I got a call from a guy that's got a nightclub, you know.
Yeah. So they put that together. And they left that part out. Here you are connecting New York to Milwaukee, right?
Yeah,
They
yeah.
they
I mean, that
included
was-
the New York
yeah.
to Florida connection. Now Chicago's involved in that also. So that
Right.
dynamic, like I said, something that no one's ever done. 5+ years undercover in the mafia, connecting families
Yeah.
across the states, across the whole country, and that didn't get highlighted. I mean,
Right.
they had they have 200 indictments with 100 convictions based on your work.
No. There were 235 convictions. I don't know
Oh,
where that
235.
100 indictments. Yeah, I don't know where that came out. But over the whole Megillah, we had 235 convictions.
I would have loved to seen at the end of the movie, like as they're rolling the credits, just the list of the convictions and the crimes that they committed. Like that resonates in me. As the viewer,
Yeah.
I don't want to see outtakes to a comedy movie. I want to see that because that's real, because that's what you did, and they missed on that opportunity to really nail that home, and even going further into, how they ended it with, your FBI career on that job. But what they really should have, I thought, hit on was what happened after. You retired. You're in witness protection. How does that work? Do you just say, hey, you know what? I want to go to Arizona, find me a ranch house because I don't feel like going up and down the stairs. Like, how did that wind up going down?
Well, the FBI doesn't put you in witness protection. You just go back to working. But in my case, after it was all over, the mob, the mafia commission, put a $500,000 contract out on me. So I basically was squirreled away. But what I was doing is now, once the operation ended, look, all these operations are toward getting convictions, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, otherwise, what's the sense of doing them? So now I'm dealing with, and you guys, as coppers, I'm dealing with the Southern District of New York, U.S. Attorney's Office, the Eastern District of New York, U.S. Attorney's Office. I'm dealing with Milwaukee's U.S. Attorney's Office. I'm dealing with Miami's U.S. Attorney's Office. I'm dealing with Tampa's U.S. Attorney's Office. And I'm getting debriefed by FBI headquarters. So I'm dealing with 5 different districts putting together cases.
And you're doing this on your own. They don't, like you said, they squirreled you away. You're not shacked up someplace I'm certain you and your wife were very concerned for your safety and the safety of your family. They didn't provide that. I can't imagine that some agency, maybe not the FBI, didn't step up and say.
During this operation, my wife lived across the country. My wife didn't live in New Jersey or New York. I mean, like you saw in a movie that I went home, once or twice a week. That was movie. I mean, my wife was living across the country, so I got home, maybe once every 5, 6, 7 months.
Oh my Lord!
During that
Christ.
period. So yeah, I mean, I'm traveling around the country with a couple FBI agents with me, to all these districts to put together, and testifying in grand juries to put together the trials and everything.
So as cops, we often talk about, I retired in 2005, and a couple of the guys here are still active, and we often talk about the way times are changing and how to do the job. Social media. You can't go out and scratch your nose or have a meal someplace without someone snapping your picture.
Exactly.
How would that? Do you think that would affect the guys that are doing the job now, or even your own perspective? Do you think if you were 40 years younger and still doing this work, do you think you'd be able to do that? Do you think that's actually possible with the situation that we're in now?
Well, I think it is possible if it's done the right way. The one thing I can say about the FBI is that when it comes to setting up backgrounds, your backstory. There ain't nobody. There's nobody did it better.
They're good at it.
Now, yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, I can't tell you stuff that we've done, but yeah, they're good at it. But it look, back in the day, we could guarantee you 99%. Today, like you say, with social media, we can do it pretty good, but we might be only doing you 75%. Because, like you say, everybody has a cell phone. Everybody's snapping everybody's picture. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
You got to change your tactics a little bit, I guess.
Even with the kids, I
Yeah,
mean, they're putting pictures up somewhere.
Everybody and their grandmother. Yeah, everybody and their grandmother is on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and it always amazes me.
Well, Joe, they're all getting off of Facebook. They're going to Parlor, Joe.
Yeah.
Parlor, for anybody that's listening.
Parlor's in, Facebook's out.
Parlor's in, Facebook's out.
I agree.
Is that a new one? Well, at any rate, I guess I until this coronavirus came about, I was teaching a lot of undercover, and it totally amazed me, these coppers, and I'm not saying disrespectfully, understand?
Sure.
When I'm saying coppers, I'm talking about agents too,
Sure.
that are on all these social medias under their real names, and they want to they want to work undercover.
Oh my God!
You got to be kidding me.
Lesson one: erase all your accounts, right?
Correct.
I think they should make a rule.
I mean,
They should make a rule saying that
and
FBI agents should not have
And they
social
got-
media.
they should. I mean, I mean, it's like, I know my daughter did 22 years in the Army. She just got out a couple of years ago.
Oh, God bless her.
God bless. Thank you for your service.
She has no social media accounts because they told her.
So-
in her position.
So the
They told her,
the Saint Michael and the blue line tattoos, we should get rid of those, or are those going to be giveaways or no?
Too late.
Blue line sticker on the back of your car.
No, but I'm saying is that you're telling me you want to work undercover, and they got their wives' pictures on there, their kids' pictures.
They
And I
shouldn't.
said, well, everybody, and here's what I get. Well, everybody has one. I do that.
They should make
I
a
don't have
policy
one.
against
I don't
that.
think-
Everybody-
I don't think everybody. I don't think everybody has one.
Well,
If you want one,
yeah, everyone under the
do
age of
it and
70.
you're undercover. Yeah.
My
And
mom
that's-
doesn't. My mom doesn't have one.
And that's why not everybody could do that job.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean,
Correct.
it's like, my God, come on, and then, look, you guys, these young guys, and when I say guy, I'm talking about gals, they bleed this shit on television. They bleed an undercover on television, and I'm saying, oh my God, you bleed that? I mean, you believe a guy's going to stick his finger in dope and start sucking on it? Oh, yeah, this is good stuff, man.
Yeah, you also can stick your finger in the barrel of a gun, and it won't go off when they point it at
Oh,
you.
no,
right?
really?
Yeah.
Oh, no, shit.
A little flag that says bang comes out.
Well,
So that bounty, they put a $500,000 bounty on you, right? And as I see it, Castellano, he rescinded that. He didn't want the heat brought on the families.
No, he didn't rescind it. Actually, they went and talked to what the FBI did was they went and talked to every boss, but they never rescinded it. But nobody's, you know what you worry about, and if you guys are coppers, you know what you worry about. You worry about the cowboy.
Yep. Absolutely.
You don't worry about the real gangster.
The little shithead trying to
knows
make a
he's
name
a
for himself.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. That's you don't worry about the gangster that knows he's a gangster. He doesn't have to impress anybody that he's a gangster. You worry about the cowboy, and so. But no, the FBI is very good taking. Look, I've been out a while, so I'm talking about what I know. Very good taking care of their own.
So I'm gonna leave you on this a little bit of trivia. All right, you guys listen to this.
Here we go.
It's one question, right? It's one question. A little trivia question for all you guys. Christian, don't look at my notes. I'm going to tell you guys a number. I want to see if any of you guys know what this number represents. Ready? 132775. 132775.
132.
Anybody?
I'm not even gonna try.
Callers? No. Listeners? Anybody? 132775. That is the check number they gave you in the movie.
Oh,
No shit! Look at you, bro.
Check number 132775 was awarded to Donnie Brasco at the end of Donnie Brasco.
wow.
Where the hell did you get that?
That's
Uh-oh.
my job, Joe.
He does his homework.
It's my
Classified
job.
info, man. You just leak classified info,
I can
Tom.
tell you.
You're one observant detective.
Well, listen. No, don't make his head grow, Joe. Stop it.
No, cut it out.
Did he tell you about his stories in the Bronx? Let's just stand by. Here we go.
No. Joe, do you have a website, or how do folks get a hold of you if they want to have you come in and do a presentation, or train some people? Do you have a business or a company you're associated with that you want to talk about?
No, they usually get in touch with my agent, Frank Wyman at Folio. But normally, the schools and everything are done. Most of my schools are done through Department of Justice or the FBI.
Gotcha.
And I do a lot of, like I say, until the virus, I worked a lot overseas. For the State Department and Department of Justice as an advisor and a undercover instructor in foreign countries. But no, I don't have a website or anything. It's all somebody knows me. They'll get in touch with an FBI agent that knows me. They'll call my publisher, and my publisher will shoot me a.
So they can't get you on Facebook or Instagram, right?
Oh yeah.
No, not on Twitter, Twatter. Or whatever.
No.
That's right. Christian's not on Twitter either.
Or TikTok.
Josh, you have anything before we wrap?
Joe, thank you. I mean,
Hey, guys,
listen,
my pleasure.
listen. I talked to Mel about this, and I said the law enforcement and the work that you did is stuff that most cops can't even understand. The sacrifices you made personally, professionally, mentally, physically, bro, we can't even get our heads around it. And not just thank you for that work, but thank you for sharing this time with us. I mean, that's.
Hey, I appreciate
these guys.
I appreciate you guys.
Like I said, I can't even. I'm not even. How you sit in the company of those guys. And I said, not just as a human, being in the company of people that are just vile criminals. I mean, that would kill you for making fun of their coffee, and maintain the discipline as a human, and then to maintain the discipline as a cop, being in the company of people that you desperately want to just throw fucking handcuffs on. Like, yo, I know who the fuck this motherfucker is. Throw cuffs on, and to not give any tells, to not. I mean, that's law enforcement on a level, like I said, that 99% of us don't even understand. And
well, I appreciate that, but you know how many times I sat there and say, "What the fuck am I doing here?"
Yeah, well, I'll listen. You know what? I'm telling you. I'm telling you what the fuck you're doing. You're inspiring guys that wear a shield, that understand this profession. Fuck the bosses, fuck administration, any of that. Nah, dude. Guys that do this job, admire guys like you in a way that you can't even comprehend.
Well, thank you.
Don't even.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And what I never understood, and is that the contempt that some administrators have for undercover agents. you know, and it's like, man.
I think
these
they think
guys,
I think they
know,
think you're getting over. Like I know
Well,
some.
that's what it is.
Yeah, I know a lot of undercovers that worked in narcotics, and when they get back to the office, they disappear because they're ghosts. And other guys would get pissed off and like, oh, they don't have to do this, they don't have to do that. That's not their job. My job is this. I do this, then I go, and your job is the paperwork. Your job is to file all this shit.
Exactly, and and you're the one that's, when I say you, I'm talking about the undercover. Like, my job is a 7-day-a-week job. Like I say, because you can't be there Monday and Friday, and where the hell are you Saturday to Sunday? And you can't take holidays off. I mean, my holidays, and as my background was I was an orphan, right? Because with the mafia, the Italians, they're very family orientated, and we want to meet your mother, we want to meet you. Well, and that's another way of testing you.
Yeah, vetting you out.
Oh, you're vetting. You got a brother. No. I grew up in an orphanage. I left the orphanage when I was 16. I never knew my mother, never knew my father. I never got married. Nothing. Because they want to see somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Or take us to the grave. We want to see the grave. So if you're an orphan, well, Donnie, come on, you can't be alone Christmas Eve,
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that it's not 5 days a week, it's 7 days a week. For you, it was about 2,000 days. Almost 6 years of doing what you did. The sacrifices that you made, your family, your kids. Where's Daddy for Christmas? Where's Daddy for this? Where's Daddy for my birthday? That stuff, honestly, that can never be repaid. That guys like us can never say thank you enough, or show our thanks in a big enough way for what you did and what guys like you do. We're not undercovers, and certainly, again, like Josh said, God bless you, man. That's just.
I'll tell you. Can I tell you one heartbreaking story?
Sure.
This one. My youngest daughter is making her first Holy Communion, right? So I fly, to where I got to fly, and what I had was in my apartment in New York. I had a call forwarding, right, and in my residence, the FBI set up a telephone, in case I ever got home. So I get a call. Now, the communion's on a Saturday. I mean, a Sunday. I get a call Saturday morning from Rogerio. Now, he thinks that I'm at the club in Tampa, Florida. That's where he thinks I'm at. So he says, you got to get to Miami. We're coming into Miami tomorrow morning. You got to get in. They were going to whack a guy. I mean, to cut to the chase without going through the host. And so I was supposed to pick him up at the airport because there's a guy in Miami that was from another family that they had permission to whack. So what am I going to say, right? So I tell my wife, I said, I got to go. She said, you can't go. I said, I got to go. What am I going to do? I got to go. I don't even tell my daughter because I can't face her, So make arrangements. I jump on a plane, do an overnighter, get to Miami, rent a car, get to the airport. At the time that nobody shows up, right? I wait around. Finally, I called Rogerio. I said, "Where the fuck are you guys?" He said, "Oh, we called it off." I said, "You called it off?"
Oh my
you don't
God!
Even fucking call me. You don't even call me and fucking tell me that you called it off.
Not even a heads up.
right? I said, thanks a lot. You know, I'm sitting down here, you know, like a jag-off. And he said, well, we figured that if we didn't show, you'd know that. So, I mean, that's something that.
That's a tough one.
You know, yeah, it's a tough one, and I don't know.
It's a tough one the FBI doesn't understand. They don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
You're just a number.
Well,
you're just a number.
You know, nobody understands.
What's that? You're wrong, Joe. You know who understands? Cops do.
Cops understand.
No,
Cops do. That's what it is.
And,
Again, like I said, fuck the administration.
When I say nobody, I'm talking about administration.
Yeah.
Yup. Fuck the administration, dude. We talk about this all the time. We're just a number. We're just a number to these guys, but to the guys that wear a shield, the guys that do the job, trust me, we get it. Trust me, we get it.
Oh, I know that. Yeah. The same thing with the brick agents. You know, they get it. I mean, I could tell you stories, from now until the cows come home. You know, about.
You could write 5 more books. Right? You could write 5 more books just on that.
But you know what? I'm of the old school that you don't air your dirty laundry, to everybody, and
suck it up.
I mean, I do it to other agents and coppers, but not to the public. You know.
Yeah, we appreciate that. All right, the booth is yelling at me, Joe. We got to go. Thank you again. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Can I mention my podcast?
Sure,
absolutely. Sure, yeah,
1000%.
I got a podcast called Deep Cover, The Real Donnie Brasco, and you can get it on Jam Street Media or Spotify or what's the other one? Any place you get
SoundCloud? SoundCloud or no?
All right, Deep Cover, The Real Donnie Brasco is your podcast. Is it on?
Donnie Brasco.
When is it on? When does it air?
Yep. It's on now. We just finished the first season.
Oh, great!
Oh, nice!
Wow, congratulations!
Awesome.
14 episodes.
I wish the producer would have told me about that before. I would have looked at it.
Who's the producer?
Wait
Wait a minute. Who's the producer? Oh, wait a minute. That's me.
Hey, by the way, I want to see that movie though.
Wait a minute. You've never seen Donnie Brasco?
No,
I know what you're doing.
I'm being honest.
I know what you're doing tonight.
Chris, go sit outside.
Chris, go to the fucking. Put him in the bathroom.
Yeah, put him in the bathroom. Chris, go sit outside. Are you out of your
different movie? But put him in the bathroom.
Are you out of your
I have
mind?
to see it though.
And he never told you about my podcast.
I know.
No,
It's crazy.
son.
Yo,
Fire this producer.
Yeah.
Forget about it.
All right, Joe. We're wrapping up. Thank you so much. That your family, your sacrifices.
Appreciate
God bless you, man.
Joe.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
All
Thank
right,
you, Joe.
thanks, brother.
All right, you too, guys. Be careful.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Jacob, take it out. Or not.
If you are searching for a doctor that truly cares about your overall health and well-being, contact Dr. Alex at Tri-State Health and Wellness. For more than 11 years, Dr. Alex has been treating law enforcement professionals and their families while focusing on one-on-one care so you never feel rushed. All necessary testing can be conducted during your visit, and they feature flexible hours and appointments to accommodate alternating work schedules. Tri-State Health and Wellness is conveniently located in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. Contact Dr. Alex today by visiting www.bluetristate.com. Mortgages for everyday heroes. From Michelle Hendershot and Homebridge Financial Services. If you're looking to purchase a home or refinance an existing mortgage, Michelle Hendershot can assist you every step of the way. With over 10 years of experience assisting law enforcement officers with their dream of owning a home, the choice is simple. Contact Michelle Hendershot today. Visit www.mortgagesforblue.com. Are you tired of sleeping alone each night? Feeling sluggish during the day? Is your snoring keeping your spouse awake at night? If you find yourself spending too much time on the couch, maybe it's time to visit Dr. Michael Doblin of At Home Sleep Solutions. Dr. Doblin is the preferred sleep apnea doctor of New Jersey's law enforcement officers. With the help of a custom-fitted oral device, you can finally say goodbye to noisy, antiquated sleep apnea machines. For more information and to schedule an appointment today, contact Dr. Michael Doblin. Visit www.bluesnore.com. Moment of Silence, Inc., along with Blue Suicide, is a nonprofit organization founded to support and raise awareness about the epidemic of suicides amongst law enforcement, military personnel, and first responders. For more information on how you can help, visit momentofsilenceinc.org. If you're in the market for a new vehicle or a certified used vehicle, then visit Fetty Auto Group, located at the junction of Route 46 and Route 3 in Clifton, New Jersey. Fetty Auto Group stands shoulder to shoulder with the men and women in blue. Stop by and ask for Troy Mall and ask about the offers for first responders. For more information, visit FettyAuto.com. That's FETTEAUTO.com. The Blue Magazine, the law enforcement publication by law enforcement professionals for the men and women of law enforcement. The unfiltered voice of law enforcement. TheBlueMagazine.com. Are you patrolling with the pig? If not, you're doing it wrong. Check out all the newest swine swag at ProudPig.blue. They are dirty by design. Check it out now. Visit www.proudpig.blue for all your swine swag. Visit www.proudpig.blue. Resumes by Joe. Owned and operated by retired NYPD second grade detective Joe Federa. With over 20 years of professional resume writing experience and focusing on translating what we do as cops into language that the corporate world can appreciate. We put an emphasis on ensuring that your cover letter and resume will be best received by the applicant tracking system used by most companies today. Check out our website at www.resumesbyjoe.com or call Joe directly at 347-992-4523. Don't forget to ask about the 50% discount for BBO members and most unions across the country. Give us the job of helping you get the job. Contact Resumes by Joe today. If you're a member of the law enforcement profession and are looking to establish long-lasting business relationships with businesses that are blue-friendly, it's time to visit visitblue.com. Visitblue.com features some of the best doctors, lawyers, realtors, as well as other service providers, such as home improvement and financial services. If you are looking for reliable, trustworthy service providers, visit visitblue.com. That's www.visitblue.com. Founded in 2014 by retired NYPD police officer Michael Burke, Brothers Before Others is a national 501c3 law enforcement charity comprised solely of both sworn and retired police officers. Since their inception, Brothers Before Others has sent floral arrangements to the services of all line-of-duty deaths, regardless of where in the country they occur, having spent over $350,000 to date. While the National Flower Fund remains their cornerstone, their benevolence has since grown well beyond that, even into the civilian world. For more information on how to get involved or to donate, visit brothersbeforeothers.org, or you can visit their public forums on all social media platforms by searching Brothers Before Others. Founded in 2016 by professional musician Neil Giraldo, 3-Chord Bourbon has developed a process that is defined as the perfectly tuned taste, blending carefully selected whiskey bourbon and rye whiskey stocks from Kentucky, Tennessee, and Indiana. Designed to be enjoyed with friends and family, 3-Chord Bourbon will leave you with the same feeling you experience after hearing that perfect song. You'll know their whiskeys are right from the very first sip. For more information on 3-Chord Bourbon and available merchandise, visit 3chordbourbon.com. Line of Duty Cigars, owned and operated by retired NYPD Detective Tom Werther. Visit lineofdutycigars.com for our handmade Nicaraguan cigars, custom ashtrays, custom humidors, and custom flask sets. Also, when you place an order, you choose the law enforcement, first responder, or veteran charity, and Line of Duty Cigars donates 10% to that organization. Planning a special event? Contact us today. Visit www.lineofdutycigars.com. And now, back to the Blue Room Podcast on the BlueBroadcastNetwork.com.
And why are these
.com.
All right, enough, Christian. All right, wow, what a hell of a first piece. Went a little bit longer than we normally do, but I mean, you got Joe Pistone on the phone. Yeah, you keep him as long as you can hold him. This could have been a 6-hour show easily. He could have just. I mean, we could have told stories. Oh well, he would have told stories, not me. Although Josh would say that I would have to counter his stories and my stories and the Bronx and all that bullshit.
Tom, do you know I opened and closed his pool?
I was going to bring that up, but we ran out of time.
At an undisclosed location, which will remain undisclosed.
Undisclosed. So joining us in the studio, we have Mike, the real Mike the Cop, president of BBO, owner of Proud Pig Apparel, and
Drinker of Survivor IPAs.
Host of Mike, the real Mike the Cop. What's the name of the show?
Uncensored.
Uncensored.
With Mike the Cop and the Unknown Detective.
And Johnny Blue. We also have Dennis Carradine Jr.,
Hey.
current executive director of New Perspectives, a private counseling agency in Delaware specializing in trauma and PTSD, specifically with first responders and law enforcement. Thank you for joining us tonight,
Absolutely.
Dennis. We're gonna hit a couple of local, not local, but police stories, and hopefully you can chime in your specialty, kind of, give your opinion on what maybe these officers are going through in the current, shit hole that we're in right now.
Yeah.
That's a good description.
Yeah, it's a good description.
By the way, this IPA is really the best IPA I ever
Well,
drank.
what IPA are you drinking, Christian?
I'm drinking the Survivors IPA, Big Oyster Brewery.
Who makes that? Dennis Carradine Jr. sitting across from
man.
you makes that.
Yeah, you
Trauma
done a
Survivors
good job,
Foundation.
man.
That's
I
a good
like
beer.
it.
It
That's
has
a
a
good
lovely
beer.
bouquet of undertones of citrus, and I love it very much.
7 Mosaic hops
7
from
Mosaic hops.
Big Oyster Brewery in Lewis for the Trauma Survivors Foundation. Skull.
Skull. If you're not watching Vikings on A&E, you're doing it wrong. Well, it's not on.
Doing it wrong.
It's not on A&E anymore. Now it's on
Hulu?
Netflix.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh, Netflix. Oh, I just canceled Netflix. Oh.
Did you ever Netflix and chill? That means fornication.
I know that.
Sorry, Tom.
No, that's all
gonna
right.
be quiet now.
You're not gonna be quiet. I'm gonna my next cigar.
The booth told me to shut up.
My next cigar, Dennis has brought us, is a Punch Classico from Rami Daco over at General Cigars. Rami, if you're listening, thank you so much. Before I started line of duty cigars, I still have a fairly large humidor home, holds 4,000 or 5,000 cigars, and I had every. I mean, I tried. It's like
4,000 or 5,000.
Yeah.
Wait. So, in your house,
Yeah.
you have 4,000 or 5,000 cigars.
Well,
Yet everybody at this table has a fucking cigar except me. Interesting.
Wow.
That's a lot of cigars, Tom. No, I'm good.
There you go.
see
Wait,
that?
really? That many?
Chivalry is
No,
not dead.
that's my that was my personal collection, like my own little.
Yeah.
Wow.
I would always, when I first started smoking cigars, probably 30 years ago, Cigar Aficionado would come out a couple of years after that, and I was always trying, going through their list to improve, not expand my palate, and I tried everything, and the ones that I liked, I'd buy a box here and a box there, and I had all of these cigars, and then I started line of duty cigars, and it's like, yeah, they're aged.
They're there.
They're going to be awesome.
So, in a
and-
really good humidor, right? How long can a cigar last? Like, what's your oldest cigar?
in my box, probably 12 years. Probably 12 years old, 13 years old, maybe.
That's a nice box.
I have one that is literally 23 years old.
Wow.
That I'm saving for my son.
That's
So
awesome.
When
Oh,
he
that's
graduates college, we have a very, very nice one from about 90 miles south of Miami.
Wow.
Do you have any white owls in your collection?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I have a white owl right here for you, Mike. But now it's all line of duty, and like I always wear a shirt and a hat, and for the most part, I haven't really. In the last 3 years, I probably smoked maybe 24 non-line of duty, mostly like Protocol. To support Bill and Juan over at Protocol, and for Rockefeller, my friend Kevin Schweitzer's company. I smoke theirs. I smoke a lot of Black Label Trading Company because Solvea Negra.
Very nice.
They make our cigars. They're one of the factories that
I like
we
the
use.
Hero. It's my favorite.
The Hero by Line of Duty.
Yeah, I like that one.
I like the grunt.
You are
I tell
right.
you, seriously, line
Honestly,
of duty cigars. Top
every
notch.
cigar that-
not just because I'm
Yeah.
sitting here, but absolutely top notch
Yeah.
cigars. It's funny.
I
when
agree.
I was coming
One
up
thing
here,
about Tom,
you know?
no matter what he does,
Top
he
notch.
does it all the way,
Oh.
and
Hey, my name's on
his,
it, man.
his whole line of cigars, exactly. His name is attached to it, and it's
Right.
going to be the best product that it could possibly be.
It top notch, top notch. It's
That's a
funny
pitch
when I
man
came
right
up
there.
here. when I came up here to do the show, it was like, wait a minute, this is Line of Duty cigars. You don't know what that means. This is awesome. And based on the FOPs and different conferences that we've been at, training and all that, he's been there and he's been selling the line. I buy them offline. It's a great solid cigar. I've been smoking since I've been 18, so about 5 years ago. Right. I got concert T-shirts over here.
Charitable aspect. Charitable.
It's
awesome.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And so Rami was at our Oktoberfest where we launched Survivor's IPA out in Delaware. We launched it before Philadelphia. We launched it in Pennsylvania. Rami came in and I said, hey, I just got this thing. I'm going up to the Blue Room to the podcast. And Rami's like, here's a bunch of cigars. This is all charity. This is for you, guy. He's with General Cigars. So the Punch cigar that you're smoking right now was the original Punch design, or at least the combination when the owner of Punch came from Cuba.
Wow.
So this was the original, I guess, recipe, we'll call it, or the original blend that came out. Rami's just been a huge supporter of the Trauma Survivors Foundation. So
that's great.
You got to love sharing the smoke. The cigar community is amazing.
Yeah, it's like the I often liken it to the law enforcement community, where you got your douchebags, but for the most part, like
I have an award for those people. Tune in on Saturday the 28th and find out who's next.
I go to a lot of lounges and stuff, and we don't talk politics. And honestly, I can count on one hand how many people in this industry who I really don't like.
Right.
Specifically the clown in Clearwater, which we can't talk about because we're in the middle of a lawsuit.
Does his name rhyme with Bill?
No.
I will do that.
So yeah, it's a great community. It's a great as large as it is really small.
It's a small group.
Your name gets around.
We launched Survivor's IPA, and sorry for taking over for this. We launched Survivor's IPA at a cigar bar in Media, Pennsylvania, Perrine Cigar Bar.
Oh, Perrine's, yeah.
If you know Perrine's, they're amazing people. So we launched the beer there and had paired it with a few cigars, and it was just that everybody came in, everybody bought the beer, everybody bought cigars, and you just had great talk, and people were talking about the charitable aspect of it, very LEO friendly, and you like that community. You don't want people throwing shade on everything, and in our society right now, shit show.
Yeah.
Everybody throws shade on everything.
Yeah. Right.
Cigar community, you talk about everything.
Yeah.
LEO friendly. I'm gonna use that
LEO
somewhere.
friendly.
I'm gonna use that. I don't know where, but it's in my stored now in my wheelhouse.
All right, let's talk about some police stuff. All right, this is a police show. We bring up Portland. I bring up Portland almost every week because every week it's taken to another level.
Oh yeah, Portland is like the main and when it comes to news media, something's always happening in Portland. Something's always happening.
It's a mess, and it gets worse every week. They so most recently the because of the Governor Brown. She doesn't trust Wheeler, who's the mayor, for him to provide protection using Portland police because he's got such a stronghold on them. He's not allowed them to use certain tactics, and he basically is giving the city away. Wheeler. So Brown has stepped in. She put a commission together consisting of the sheriff's county, the sheriff's office, and the state police. And what they did was they went out this week and they confiscated at one of their peaceful protests. They confiscated loaded guns, explosives, incendiary devices, Molotov cocktails.
Damn.
But they can't use rubber bullets.
No. They
Too dangerous.
They broke into the St. Andre Basset Catholic Church. They broke the windows. They vandalized it, basically shutting it down. What happens is these folks get arrested, and then 70% of the charges are dropped, and then the folks that actually the 70% are released. Those other 30% that actually get charged and go through the system, the charges get dropped. So there's no accountability. It's like a kid. If you have children and you basically say to your children, do whatever you want, you won't get in trouble. That's Portland right now. But with adults with guns and knives.
Or say you're punished, and then they're out the next day.
Yeah. No, you're punished. Not even you're out the next day, but now you're not punished.
Right.
Like if you're out the next day, it's one thing. Look, if you get punished at home as a kid, you are out the next day. These kids, I get the whole bail reform and speeding up the process. That's okay to lock them up and let them out the next day, but you got to hold them accountable 2 months later at your court date, or 3 months or 4, and they're not. So that's not going to change until Wheeler and the DA there, what's his name, Mike something or other, Schmidt maybe, they actually start prosecuting people for these crimes.
Or you offer them like Yankee tickets to come back to court, like
I
we do in New York.
I wonder-
Mets
tickets.
But we complain here in New York. We complain about de Blasio. Anyone that's listening to New York City.
I wonder how will Portland will end up.
Can I finish my piece? Thanks.
Sure.
So we complain about de Blasio on a daily basis, and then you look at Portland and you say, "Wow, we don't. It's not so bad in New York City. Something's got to give there."
Well, if you're comparing it to Portland, I mean that's a pretty hard. I mean, it's like hold my beer between the cities.
Right.
So I don't see the future there. I don't see how they're ever going to get it back. How do you deal? Like, you know, Dennis, in your field, you talk about how you work with law enforcement and first responders and the trauma that they go through. Who's working with the citizen? Who's working with grandma that can't go outside and get a gallon of milk or a loaf of bread?
Sadly, nobody. I and obviously, we're there for the trauma survivors. Obviously, our foundation's at about 41 different states with about 1,500 different clinicians. We've trained 2,800 law enforcement or 2,800 first responders. The problem being is that you put people in a situation where they feel stuck. The people either do one of two things: either you accept it or you fight against it. Portland, you have a situation where they accept it, and they don't do anything. It's learned helplessness.
Who accepts it? I mean, I don't think
the regular citizen just accepts it.
So what's their
the
what are their
government
options?
because the government has failed them.
failed
Like
them.
I'm not big government, and I think we need less, not more. But in those particular instances, that's where somebody should
more.
be stepping in and doing something, and they just don't give a shit.
But if you handcuff, and not, for whatever it is, you handcuff the police, literally and figuratively, handcuff the police, then the citizens have no one to turn to. So you're not turning to a mental health person saying, oh my God, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, or whatever it is. You're hunkering in and you're not doing anything. You're just stuck. Mm-hmm. And you have a situation where you don't even have a state that's run appropriately. It's literally a shooting gallery out there. We had a situation in Philadelphia not too long ago, literally like 4 days ago, where folks from West Virginia drove up in a Humvee, loaded for bear. They had weapons, they had armament and so forth, and I guess they were going to do whatever at the convention center for the voting or what have you. The police intervened. They were arrested. They were taken away.
Wow.
You're not seeing that in Portland. You're not. People are rolling up and they're going, you know what? We don't know what to do with you, because ultimately you're not going to be jailed for this.
Well, not only that, but the law enforcement, there's nothing they can do. Portland police are told they're told to stand down.
Right.
So then the governor's got to go above the mayor and say, all right, well, if you're not going to let your police department police and keep the city safe, then you're forcing me as the governor, because I am responsible for the city of Portland. I have to put together a commission of the sheriff's office and the state police. Now, mind you, the state police pulled out of Portland about a month and a half ago and basically said, we're not here. You're not protecting the cops. You're not prosecuting what we're doing. Actually, the statement by the superintendent was along the lines of, we refuse to send our officers to enforce the law that you refuse to prosecute. Yeah. We'll go someplace. We'll send our officers where the process is complete. It's just a waste of time here. You're not saving lives. You're not.
They're there to be punching bags. That's it. And they're not going to do it. Why should they do it?
So what do you do as a cop? You get there and you're told, stand there. Okay, so stand there, and they're going to throw a brick at you, but you're not allowed to go back. Yeah. Spit in your face. The cop in New York last week, this girl was right in his face on the west side, right in his face, up until the point she spit. And he paused for a second, and then he snapped. Grabbed her, pulled her down. She's from Pennsylvania.
She's a habitual offender.
She's a habitual offender. She's been locked up 3 times for rioting charges or what have you, attempted assault. How is spitting in a cop's face not at least the attempted assault charge?
Well, it is in most cases.
Well, it's not
under the law if that's physical contact.
But in New York City,
it's do what you want.
Go spit in the face of Mayor de Blasio and see what happens to you.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody should make a website, and it should be called deblasioisadouchebag.com.
Did you see?
Oh, that sounds like someone already secured that website.
They have. Well, coming soon.
Last week's episode, I said that the mayor of Portland is on a loop of stupidity. Basically, it is
the loop of stupidity. We forgot about that, Josh. Where's Josh?
And
no, the T-shirts are being made.
And so as de Blasio, so it's like, I wonder how will Portland end up as? That's my question. If I were to be a resident in Portland, I would leave, grab my car and leave. Fuck paying rent. fuck all my
It's
property.
it's a family show, please, with the F words.
Frick.
Frick.
Forget about my stuff. I'll just grab my bags and leave. Just drive away to oblivion. God knows where, but
But aren't
To
you looking
oblivion.
at
He's just making words up. Like the oblivion is really a word, but it doesn't fit there, right?
But aren't you looking at a multi-generational problem, not just right now in a world? You know, when I grew up, you went to the badge.
Right.
You went to somebody in authority. You went to them because you trusted them. You respected them.
Yeah.
I mean, my God, I went to 13 years of Catholic school, was never touched. I was very sad. I wasn't good looking. Anyway, whatever. So
Priest didn't like fat kids.
the
I didn't get
it
fingered.
just was what it was.
The night's still young. A couple more IPAs, you might be.
But going
call
to
me
Catholic
Father
school,
Johnny.
you would bring an officer in. Somebody's dad would come in, and you were in amazement because, wow,
Yep.
you were a police officer. Now you have multi-generations saying, don't trust that person. Look, you know, we deal with LEO all the time, you know, with our debriefings and so forth of what they're going through. You are already being called. Police officers are already being called to the worst day of somebody's life. You know, whatever it is, it's a robbery, it's a rape, it's an arson, whatever it is, you're being called to somebody's worst day of your life. You're going into a situation that's most likely a no-win situation anyway. Now, multi-generations later, basically the cop is bad. No matter who they are, no matter how great they are in society, that cop is deemed bad.
Well,
they're going to lock up daddy. They're going to lock up mommy. This isn't what this is. And you have kids that are afraid of them. Okay, now you throw in the fact that government isn't backing up that officer. That stress is unreal. That stress for that
Right.
officer is off the charts.
Well, you made a good point when you said, you know, generation ago, if mom or dad was a cop and came into class to speak to the kids, it was great. And now you're having officers that are dropping their kids off to school on the way to work in uniform and being told you can't come in the school building because you have a gun on you.
Right.
He's like, I'm an active cop. I'm working.
Yeah.
I am legally working. I'm legally allowed to take my kid to school during this time frame that I'm working on the clock and being told you cannot come in the building.
And also, our generation, we're all about the same age. I think three of us.
I'm much younger than you.
How old are you?
30.
Okay, I'll be double nickels in a few days.
26.
So,
48.
During like my generation, like if you got in trouble for whatever it was, I'm not talking about major crime. Just even if the cop had to talk to you on the street, you got in trouble when you went home. If your mom or dad found out about that. Now, if you get in trouble or you have a contact, the parents of the kids these days are like, "Can we sue them? What did they do?" Like it's
Right,
not.
right.
You know, they're not respected like they were
Not respected.
back in our day.
well, you gotta
Oh,
look
no.
at a cultural perspective. You have media, you have educational institutions that are telling young people like my age and younger that cops are oppressors, cops are murderers. I'm like,
Christian, you're 30. And who's telling you that? Come on.
well,
Fuck outta here.
but I'm
Yeah,
saying
but that's the home's responsibility
yeah.
because I have teenage, you know, my stepdaughter's 18. She's in college now. She was subject to all those kind of things. But what happens when she comes home? What happens when a parent, you sit down and you talk about those things? If you're just on, autopilot, then that's the stuff that they're going to believe. So it's,
Right.
you know, it's, the media and all that stuff, but it's also the home life, the parents.
Yeah,
And it doesn't help,
or
too,
parents' fault.
when you have a kid that's acting up in a store, they see a cop, parents see a cop in uniform. Oh, if you don't start acting right, the cop's going to arrest you.
Oh, dude.
No.
Yeah.
I
And-
snap at my friends
And
that done that.
you make it a point to tell the kid, I'm not going to arrest you. When you need something, you come talk to me. I'm not here to. I'm
I'm going to
bust your
arrest
chops.
mommy and daddy
Yeah.
long before I arrest you.
Yeah.
Trust me.
You're doing what you're supposed to do. You're 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. You're acting how you're supposed to act. That's it. I'm not the bad guy. I'm not here to bust your chops. You're a kid. Be the kid that you are. Have fun doing it.
Right.
Pick up a football. We'll toss it around with you.
Yeah.
Josh, you got a hot mic? Because typically, we don't usually discuss politics unless it directly relates to law enforcement. And now, obviously, almost every political race involves us. Okay, and what I want to talk about is what the election results will mean to the law enforcement community, because we are the buffer between the rioters and the non-rioters. So when this shit hits the fan, we're the only form of government between.
We're the accessible form of government.
Accessible.
And I proved this point with my wife last night. I put her on the spot. I said, hey, right now, who's our congressperson and where's their office? And she had to look it up. And she's an engaged, educated.
Oh no, she's not
woman.
engaged. She's married, right? You guys are totally. You got
Well, yeah,
kids.
that too.
You got kids,
Yeah.
aren't you?
Yeah. the average person has no clue who their congressperson is, how to reach them, how to complain, how to make any kind of contact with them. They know where a cop is, and they know how to, to access a cop, and to how to express their anger.
Well, I think a lot of the attack in law enforcement is not necessarily directed at law
At
enforcement
all.
as much as it is the government. And like I
Correct.
said, you're the most accessible one there because there's a cop on not every corner, but you know what I'm saying. When
Correct.
fire department trucks, who were for years and ever, and NYPD, Mike, that they were the golden child. The firemen in the 80s and the 90s could do no wrong.
Well, they're rescuing cats from trees.
Yes.
We're writing summonses, so
that is not the opinion of the show.
Right.
Then they start turning on the firemen, and they're smashing windshields of fire trucks.
Any form of
authority,
or-
exactly.
Right.
And to answer your question, I don't think you have to look any further than Minneapolis, right? So they were one of the first ones to actually literally defund the police.
Exactly.
Correct.
It lasted 2 months, and now they want to know why the crime is going up and why nothing's happening. Because there's no fucking police.
Forget that. The council people who actually voted for defunding the police have now hired private security on the taxpayer's dollar that has cost $63,000 in the last 3 weeks. That's taxpayer dollars after they voted to defund the police
For themselves.
So
Yeah,
again, it's rules for thee, not for we.
But they don't defund the police. And I hate to say that, and I'm not, not digressing from anything that we're speaking about. But when you say defund the police, that means something different for everybody. Defund might mean get rid of the police department. Two, don't be a militaristic or what have you, institution or what have you. Nobody has literally come out with a definition
Well, some
of
have.
what defund the police
So
is.
in LA,
So it's all different.
In LA,
Yeah.
they cut the budget. So what they did was they wound up reducing the homicide squads, the robbery squads, the gang squads, and they're redirecting those funds when people retire from these units, they're not being replaced.
Right.
So
That's a more long term. The reaction to those you will not see as you will like in Minneapolis where they just defunded it. But over time, you'll see what a negative impact that's going to have.
Sure.
I think before I came on the air, somebody outside in the lab showed me a thing from De Blasio where he's declaring that they're not going to send NYPD out on EDP or emotionally disturbed jobs. So I would say every cop will say, great, don't send us. It's one less bullshit thing that we have to deal with.
I said that months ago.
Right,
The less
so-
jobs that we go to, the better.
You
wanna-
also
wanna
want to
send it-
release inmates.
Yeah.
Just for the record.
Only the kid touchers.
But that's not. That will last. It's the same way because the first time this observer, and listen, I'm not knocking somebody with a degree that can handle that kind of stuff, but that comes after the initial interaction between the uniform, right, the one that's armed, and the one that's trained to deal with that kind of thing. The idea to just have somebody go out there that's an intermediary who can deal with the emotional problem when the guy is 6'7" and covered in Crisco oil and nude with a knife, they're not equipped for that. That's what we're for.
We're not equipped for that.
Well,
Because
but we're
if you
better-
shoot that guy like
okay.
they did in Buffalo, Rochester,
Right.
they riot.
Okay, but we're better equipped for
Yes.
it because whether you would like it or not, more times than not, that person can't be spoken to, and it has to be dealt in the now. We don't have a half hour to wait for someone to show up because the guys, we all know that those rules with the knives, how far a guy can get with a knife within
21 feet.
21
feet.
All those things, right?
Right.
So just talking about us on a city street, that's 21 feet in every single direction.
Yeah.
You have to act in that moment.
All I can say that is if you come to me at Crisco, I'm bringing you with a frying pan some chicken because I gotta eat. I'm scraping it off your titties.
What's your
Christian.
recipe? you want your beating extra crispy or regular?
Two programs that have been out there, and honestly with it, the CIT program, the VRT program, Crisis Intervention Team, and then the Veterans Response Team. We've had it in Delaware. I think one started in Texas, one started in Georgia, where you're training, and I train both the CIT and VRT teams down in Delaware, where you have officers that are trained in behavioral health techniques. So you have that out there so that when a behavioral health situation occurs, that you have these officers that are called in that can ultimately talk that person down. So the VRT team, Veterans Response Team, say somebody's going through a PTSD crisis that's a veteran, you have another veteran cop talking to that. The problem is that it's not widespread. You don't have that in every state. You don't have that in every county and what have you. There are two situations in Pennsylvania that directly reflect that. You had a situation in Lancaster. A guy comes out of his house with a knife, goes after the officer. Officer shoots him 5 times. There's a little protest. It wasn't a big protest. Little protest ended up, I think they set fire to 2 state trooper vehicles, what have you. 15 people get arrested. The judge gave them $1 million each bail.
Oh my God!
Arrested them, $1 million each bail. Philadelphia, you have a guy that comes after 2 officers with a knife. They shoot, put him down, and riot breaks out. 200 businesses get looted and destroyed.
Damn.
What's the difference there? Is it training? Is it situation? Is it city? Is it government? You got to go through all of it. In Delaware, the reality is what we have a situation. Somebody has a knife. Again, you might have that CIT officer that's out there to try to talk that person down a little bit. I think that's a golden rule. Now they're talking about, well, we're going to put a social worker in with a cop, and then there's going to be a certain squad on that night that you have to get there. That's where you get into, do we have 20 minutes to wait for that car to come out with a situation that's going to develop within 30 seconds?
In a county, that might work. In New York City, it
won't work.
It will
It
never
won't work in a
work.
county either, because when the cop gets there, what you're saying is the cop is it's 20 minutes, so I'm going to go sit in my car. I'm going to stay away because if the subject advances, I have to take action. If the subject attacks mom, dad, or a neighbor, it's like in Pittsburgh, was it Pittsburgh about a month ago? The guy hopped over the stairs. He had locked up 3 times for stabbing his neighbor. Cops got there. They shot.
Yeah.
They put him down, and then the family was outraged.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, there were 3 radio runs on that job. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. The first radio run was an assault on the mother. The second one was an assault on the father. And when the cops got there, the second one, they spoke to him a little bit. The father said, no worries. Third, on the second job, the subject actually took off and ran. The cops were like, all right, he ran. I'm done. Yeah, whatever. They called back for the third job, and now he's got the knife. The same guy, and they shot him.
But just
he
think about this. Think about how unfair that it is that looking back at it, we can say 1 job, 2 jobs, 3 jobs, right? The cop going to that job in that moment is dealing with that person in that moment and the situation that's happening then. Yeah, the other stuff comes into play, but not right then. After.
Yeah.
So if it turns out that the perp is shot because they're brandishing a knife, well, I'm sorry that it happened 2 or 3 other times. The system failed that individual, not the police officer responding, trying to handle that situation in that moment.
But the society,
and that's what gets lost.
Society also thinks that cops want to shoot that guy.
Not at all. No. Less than 5%. Less than 5%.
But those 5% are the ones that are rioting. That's 5% who's on CNN and MSNBC. And when you put that 5% on news networks like that, and they falsely report stuff to push their false narrative, people that the brainwashed sitting at home, that's all they see. That's all they hear.
And the court of public opinion. That's where it goes.
And we just want to go home. We want to come to work.
That's the root of the
and go
problem.
home.
The way that officer that has to take that shot, that literally has to take that shot, the way that it destroys them is unreal. You don't have stone cold killers. That's not what this is. They're doing their job. And, I can't count the number over a 25-year career. I can't count the number of cops that I've counseled that have shot people, that all of them, it destroys them inside because they knew that they took a life. That's the last goddamn thing that they want to do is shoot somebody.
And now they second guess every other action they take afterwards that might happen again. Because if you're in a second shooting, now the antennas are really going up.
Right.
On a third shooting, the flags are out. You're screwed. Like the guy in Washington, right? A couple weeks ago we talked about him. He was in 3 shootings. He had 6 years on the job, and all 3 of them were legit. He was indemnified in all 3 of them. Right. And they're going after him now on the third shooting. Now they're starting to go back on his other 2, saying, who gets involved in 3 shootings? You know who does? An active.
You were proactive
cop gets involved.
Right.
And there was video on 2 of his shootings. Totally legit. But now we're going to go back and we're going to look into that again.
But because he's not a slug, and he's not sitting there doing nothing, he's a proactive cop, and now he's being screwed.
But now you got to be a slug. You got to sit there and wait and be a fireman.
Unfortunately.
Wait until I'm called. And then do your best to do your job.
But you're also, you're looking at the changing climate of policing in the United States. By I think the numbers 2025, 60% of the police force are going to be veterans. We are bringing in folks that have been trained in a total different way. You go from a warrior to a guardian, right? You go into a situation where you are actively trying to do something that makes sense to I hate to say it, to eliminate the threat and what have you, but now you're basically handcuffed. You're not allowed to do it, and if you do it, you're going to be under scrutiny for an unreal amount of time. I don't know what New York does, but ultimately Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, and all, you ice that cop. The departments ice that cop for a year.
Yeah, but 99% of police shootings happen when the subject that gets shot has a weapon.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So
absolutely.
I don't care if
And
you're,
of the
if you're a veteran
1%,
or not a veteran.
right,
You're going to take that same action.
The 1%, the cop went to less deadly physical
Yeah.
force than the firearm.
Oh, yeah.
75% of the
but now
time.
you're getting
Yeah, Atlanta.
scrutinized. You're getting scrutinized for tasing somebody. You
Atlanta,
shouldn't tase them.
the guy he did everything he could do. He tried tasing the guy. The guy took his taser
and shot at him.
and tried to shot.
with a
Like,
taser.
really? Come on. There's only so much you can do with that.
I'm all fired up now.
I can see that.
And all that going on. It doesn't help when the president-elect says that the president-elect.
Right.
Potential president.
There's a president-elect?
Yeah, it might be. There might be. We're not
Well,
sure
he's
yet.
standing in front of a screen that behind him says President-elect's office, so I guess that means he's President-elect.
When he turns around and says, "Police are the enemy," or he says the police have become the enemy.
Right.
That's a really
It's
hard
horrible.
message to put out there.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
The police are the enemy. Again, we don't work for the president. We don't work for the governors. We work for the mayors. So that's our first direct form of supervision above us, or whatever you call it. We work for you, our boss. Our boss is the mayor. You could say it's the commissioner, it's the chief, but it's not. We work for the mayor. And the mayor's policies are directly going to affect our work, not the governors and not the presidents. But when the highest authority in the land says something like that,
People listen.
we have to sit back and
you
go.
saw
"My."
you saw the effect of that with Obama.
This
You saw
started.
it.
This started in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Thank you.
That's where it started.
Thank you.
Beergate.
That's it.
So in your field and what you're doing, right? What would you say the percentage is for like psychological trauma related to actual physical trauma? What is there like a breakdown on that? What's
God,
more?
yeah.
Hold on, before we even get into that,
Oh,
before-
okay.
no, I just let's talk about your field. It's a great question. Let's talk about your field,
Sure.
and then we can have questions for you. So
Sure,
the
absolutely,
listeners are saying,
absolutely.
"What the hell's your field?" So let's tell the listeners what your field is and what
So
you do.
trauma psychology. So my specialty. And you got to look at it. And my office is in Delaware, but like I said, we're everywhere. We go anywhere that we're ever needed. So mine's trauma psychology, very specifically with first responders and veterans. We work with nurses and doctors and so forth. My specialty is PTSD and crisis intervention. So we do debriefings, we do worldwide disasters, you name it. We actually we're in the green room. Is that what we'll call it?
Yeah, the
Was it
green room, the
whatever
lab.
it was? The lab.
Yeah.
We were out there and we were talking about the different episodes. Even going up to the Sandy Hook shooting, I was up at Sandy Hook for about a month working with the first responders and people after the school was shot.
But you also did Katrina, right? You did
Did
9/11,
Katrina, 9/11, Pulse nightclub,
Boston Marathon.
Oh yeah, Boston. That hurt, man. Boston's my second home. I love Boston. Got tons of friends up there.
I'm just trying to build
That
your
was
credibility
it.
here.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I want these guys to know that you've been at all these major events.
It's funny. I taught at Penn State. We are anyway. Penn State. No, taught at Penn State for 15 years at one of
You
the.
didn't play football,
campuses.
did you?
Not at Penn State. Not at Penn State.
So you
Not-
didn't-
this
so
year
you-
sucked.
So you didn't get touched there either.
Didn't get touched at Penn State either.
No
Temple
Sandusky.
University, go out.
Does no
I
one want to
did.
touch you?
No, the Jesuits did, but that was bad. So even at Penn State, my students would say, hey, Doc Airden goes where shit blows up, and it's true. We, even Hurricane Harvey and so forth, we get called in when situations go crazy, and so forth. And one of my major things, working with not just the police, like I'm clinical director for the CISM team. I work with a ton of the LEOs, and
What is CISM?
CISM, Critical Incident Stress Management Team. We teach it. We provide it. My partner, Lieutenant Harold Bozeman, he's a lieutenant down in Delaware, one of the police agencies down there. He's also second vice president of the FOP. Great guy. And all of us, when we sit down and we talk about it, the problems that we have is it's more psychological than physical. cops, and you got to look at it. And for anybody that's listening out there, if you've ever known a cop that's hurt, a cop can conceptualize pain, can say, okay, I got a broken arm, I got shot in the leg. I can conceptualize that. I can't conceptualize the psychological ramifications because I'm a badge. Somebody came at me and I was wearing this badge, and now the badge, not that it's tainted, but it's different. Like, you came at me, and that ultimately creates this second guess. Every cop that I've ever counseled or ever talked to or have ever debriefed within a shooting or a situation or whatever it is, the last thought in their mind was, I don't want to shoot this person. They literally will talk themselves almost out of it, saying, no.
Oh, no, I wanted to shoot the guy I shot.
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now. I definitely wanted to shoot that cocksucker.
But, okay, now I know one.
Me too. Me too, and I hit a 72 Malibu 3 times. Put that car out of commission.
It's that whole psychology behind it that ultimately, if we look at that, we look at alcoholism versus problem drinking. What's the first thing that police do to kind of cope with everything? Well, it's go to alcohol or whatever it is, and then all of a sudden we say, well, 87% are alcoholics. No. 87% might have problem drinking, meaning that they're trying to.
Is that a legit number?
Legitimate number. You go to it's Cop Line, Blue Line, whatever it is.
So they're using it as a coping mechanism?
They're using it as a coping mechanism because it's legal.
So 87% of the people that you deal with, or not, or no, 87% overall.
Overall, will have problem drinking. We're using alcohol to go to sleep. We're using alcohol not to have the nightmares. We're using alcohol to socialize because that's all we know how to do.
My problem is 2 hands, 1 mouth.
Yeah. and when that's you look at that, then we throw that out there and say, well, they're all alcoholics. No, they're not. They're using it in a different way. Alcohol is supposed to be socializing. You sit around, you talk about amazing Survivors IPA. Plug. Anyway, but you talk about these things.
Skull.
You talk about these things, and it's supposed to be a social lubricant, and people are using it for the wrong directions. So the society sees it as, well, these are alcoholics, and that's how they deal with it. Well, it's not the case. We're trying to suppress those things that we see. And again, there's bread and butter. Think about your careers. You had that phone call that you knew the address at. Little Marge, you knew that every now and then was just lonely and wanted to call the cops so you could come, and talk to her or whatever because somebody was in her garbage can or whatever bullshit it was. But those are the citizens that we're not seeing. We're seeing the worst effects of what society holds. There are things out there, and we could go in for days with stories about this, of what a cop sees. Look, me being a former volunteer firefighter, a former EMT and so forth, we're second in. Whether it's a car accident, an MVC, whether it's a house fire, whatever it is, second in. The cop's always first. They are seeing things that nobody else should see. So what do you do with it? You suppress it. You hold it in. So ultimately, and I always tell this, I was talking to Captain Davis about it. He knows, he's been to my lectures and all that stuff, is that the average American male lives to 78 years old. The average American female lives to 82 because we check out at 78 because we don't hear our shit anymore. But
I'm out.
The average police officer, and although that you're at 55 right now, the average
but I
police
retired
officer,
at 35. So
30 there. Yeah. The average police officer dies at 56, and it's mainly cardiac or stress-related issues. Real numbers. Those aren't bullshit numbers, real numbers. And why? It's because of the stress that they see, and they're not doing anything with it. Now you have a situation where society is saying, you're wrong, you're bad, you're the enemy. So how is that going to affect somebody that got on the job 5 years ago? Now they're dealing with all the other bullshit stress that they're dealing with. Now society telling them that they're the bad man.
And they got 15 to 20 years left to retire of hearing that.
So they're going out to their breaking point faster.
Oh, God,
absolutely.
And that's why I'm always giving credit to the younger cop, because everybody's always like, oh, they're the dancing generation or whatever it is. The job, I don't think, has ever been.
Dancing cops.
I know, I do.
I hate them.
I'll deal with that on Saturday.
Flash mobs.
But I feel like.
But that's their coping.
Right, their job is
They
tougher than ours ever was.
Oh, absolutely.
Because of all the videos and everything else.
Absolutely.
And the not backing of.
And if Rob Corbett actually made we talked about it last week. Rob Corbett's a lieutenant in the police department, NYPD, and he made he had a little short rant, and he was saying, guys, you retired guys, basically shut the fuck up, because you don't know what these younger guys are going through. You're saying, hey, this is the way we would handle it. If you want to come back on the job right now and handle it, you'll be in jail, so quickly.
Like my Blue Falcon Award. When I was on a job, I wore no vest and I had a six-shooter.
Yeah, jerk off in Florida?
Yeah. So when he was on a job, this is the way he did it. And all these guys today, all they care about is policing, like if they're playing Call of Duty.
So do you remember the question you had now that
wow.
we've established Kevin's background? Oh, Dennis is sorry, Kevin.
Yeah, the question was.
Kevin.
The question was.
Dennis,
Kevin.
Kevin's
Yeah,
Kevin's
Kevin.
The question was, percentage-wise, can you break it down to? Is it more the physical or more the psychological?
It's more psychological, 100% to it. Look, seminal moment in our society where policing was put on point was Rodney King. That was the seminal moment. You
That
know,
was like 92, right?
92. I'm sorry if it hurts anybody's feelings that I bring that up, but the reality is that that's when cops got on video. And now, what I find just it boggles my mind. Like we went to a Phillies Red Sox game a couple of years ago. Two dudes started breaking out into a fight in the parking lot because it's Philadelphia.
Odd.
And bad things happen in Philadelphia. Anyway, but what? Sorry,
It's not always sunny, right?
it's not always sunny in Philadelphia. So my response was to break these two up. Okay. 500 other people's response was to whip out their phones and take a video of it and post it and
they
make
cheer them
comments
on.
about it.
Yeah, cheer them
Make
on.
comments about it.
Yeah.
So now that seminal moment in 92, whenever it was, that we're on video. Now everything that cop does, you're not getting backup. You're getting people putting you out there for the altar of public opinion.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting crucified before you even have a chance to defend yourself. Look, the biggest thing right now that works against first responders is social media. You know, I was dealing with
Totally true.
a cop situation. Cop was murdered. He was shot in his car. This was in downstate Delaware. God bless him. Shot in his car. A partner shot in his car. His mother found out that he was shot by a post on Facebook.
Oh, Jesus.
prior to the department ever calling her. So now you not only have the mother, you have the department finding this out before anybody else figures this out, that what happens. That scrutiny creates that psychological imbalance. It creates that crisis situation in everybody that says, okay, I'm putting on my vest, I'm putting on my badge, what the hell is going to happen to me next? You know, not just with, am I going to get shot? Am I going to get stabbed? Is somebody going to roll me over or anything like that? But am I going to be put out there on blast and basically made to look like the biggest goofball on the planet or Satan himself based on an action that a 20-second video shows and not a 5-minute video, or not show the whole video?
Show what it
They
actually
never
was.
do. They never do. They
And
show
that's
you what
stress.
they want
Right.
to push their the false narrative. They show you point A to point B. They never show you before.
Right.
They don't show you
Right.
after.
Right.
Like, you don't know what happened.
And the cop is getting, or any first responder, because you can go into police, you can go to firefighters, you can go into EMTs. Look, you know, in Wilmington right now, Wilmington, Delaware, St. Francis is the EMT up there, St. Francis Hospital. They wear the Kevlar vests because they have to, okay, because they've been shot at. And
EMTs,
so forth.
on an
EMTs
ambulance are wearing bulletproof vests.
Honest to God, you could look at. I love those guys to death. I was just there 2 weeks ago training them about the stress of everything. They are wearing Kevlar vests. We have our fire department now getting issued
Oh, my
Kevlar
Lord.
vests. And why? Because we are not disseminating as a society that this is a cop, this is a firefighter, this is the EMT. They all have a badge. They all suck. Let's shoot at them. The stress of it right now is unreal. And look, our business is booming. You know, the trauma psychology world is just booming right now. But the problem is that nobody's stepping in to champion those first responders. You know, I'll be the first one. I throw it down. And you know, we were joking earlier. I'm freaking out in the lab,
Right.
not the green room.
Yeah.
In the lab,
Yeah.
I'm freaking out because it's Joe Pistone. I'm like, it's damn Joe Pistone. Do you know who this guy is? And
There's case study here. Like,
I'm like, this guy's, you know. But it's not that anymore. It's just like, oh, you know, sorry for the language, but that fucking cop over there, you know, he jammed up my brother and blah blah blah. Fuck that guy. And you're not
Danny
getting
Faulkner.
good talk.
Danny Faulkner was murdered because
Uh-huh.
he pulled over Jamal's. Well, I don't know what his real name is, and he changed it. Pulled
Mumba,
over-
whatever.
He
Abdul
pulled.
Jamal.
We don't even
Well, that's
say
his that's his name
That's
now.
his
I don't know
name
what his
now,
name
yeah.
was
Fuck him.
before he changed it.
Yeah.
He pulled over
Piece
the
of shit.
brother.
Yeah.
He had the brother on a car stop. Had the brother on the back of the hood when Mumial Jamal came out of the car and attacked him from behind.
Right.
Like you're car stopping my brother, and because your car stopped my brother,
I'm
I'm
going
going to murder you.
Oh.
My God.
And
Like-
it just the trauma that's caused You got to look at it. Is that every cop's put out there that this guy has gotten a law degree, he's gotten this, he's gotten people behind him, and I used to listen to the Beastie Boys, all the time. Fuck them. Because you get behind a cop
Ben
killer.
and Jerry's, Rage Against the Machine,
Whoopi Goldberg,
Susan Sarandon.
Right.
Well,
I think behind a cop killer, you're not doing well.
But here's the thing: just like I believe that the anti-LE movement is more against the government.
Right.
I also believe that a lot of that movement is not against the cop killer or for the cop killer as much as it is against capital punishment.
Sure.
So that's the big case. That's the big. So let's get behind that. We don't believe he should.
You're giving a cop killer a voice,
of course.
And at the end of the day, you killed a guardian. You killed that person on the blue line. What happens when you kill a firefighter? What happens when you kill an EMT? Look, we bury our own exceptionally well. Who takes care of them? And I'm not saying, hey, look, do I have people out there that I think I'm a scumbag? Yeah, probably. I hope not many, but probably a bunch, whatever it is. But I'm out there trying to help.
He was saying it earlier.
Chris was out in the lab saying, fuck that Keratin guy. Anyway.
Unless you're bringing pizza.
Yeah. Bring us pizza, we're good.
But the reality is that I have, and ask anyone, go to my websites, go to whatever, I have always championed that line of saying, look, there's something that's beyond that you have to look at. Okay, are there bad psychologists in the world? Sure, there's horrible psychologists out in the world. Are there bad cops out there? Sure, there's bad cops out there. But the reality, the overwhelming majority of people are, and especially with officers and first responders, they are not bad. They're doing a job that unbelievably is thankless. And now you're telling somebody, okay, well, we're going to shoot this cop, but we're going to give the killer a voice to say that the cop deserved it. Danny Faulkner never deserved any of that, and it's a shame. We work with a couple of foundations. One, VestaCop, where in Pennsylvania, and again, and I don't know all the counties out in New York, but VestaCop, they have to buy, or they have a foundation that buys Kevlar vests for officers, because most of the townships in Pennsylvania do not supply the cops with their own vests. So you're setting them up for failure with it and all. We work with the 302 Phalanx Foundation, that foundation buys canine vests, because not necessarily the departments don't have vests for the canines. Canines are sworn-in officers, but they don't have a vest. And, the Phalanx have already purchased 15 or 16 different vests at a tune of like $1,500 to $2,000 a piece for it. So why aren't we doing this?
And why is that? Why the department is not supplying the vest for these officers?
Money. Budget. It's not in the budget. It's so we will, and I always, and look, I hate to give these grim statistics or whatever it is, but if you look at training an officer, putting them in the academy, giving them the FTO, giving them the uniform, giving them everything for 2 years, it costed a department. It's about $260,000 to do that.
So what's an extra $1,500?
What's an extra $1,500?
Or better yet, how about this? We'll get you the vest, but we will charge you for it. We're going to take $25 a week out of your, every 2 weeks out of your check until it's covered. Like, because most cops don't have that money laying around. No. Especially a young cop, just got on a job, you're 22, 24, 25, whatever.
The way contracts are, you're not getting much.
Just here's the deal. We'll buy it. We'll get it back. Yeah. Even with interest, who cares?
But instead, let's go in the other direction and defund and take away funds and make it even harder to then.
When you said before, the police, they don't have, the last thing that they want to do is shoot another person, taking another person's life. What about those who are in the military where they have to kill someone? What's the paralysis comparison between a cop going through PTSD and a veteran going through PTSD?
That's a great. Actually, that's an amazing question. I love that question. You got to look at it. When you have a veteran that comes back, that ultimately gets into policing, they have to have a absolute mindset to it. We're looking at statistics, and I'll throw out statistics pretty quickly. 3 to 7% of the world's population right now have PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. 3 to 7% of the world. When you look at first responders, whether it's police, fire, ambulance, whatever it is, that 3 to 7% isn't even the low. Isn't even the low. You have anything from 13 to 35%. Now, people coming out of a 18-year war that's been going on, we have reports saying that veterans are coming out to up to 47% that can be diagnosed with PTSD.
So almost half.
Almost half that.
But you also have to admit that I'm gonna sound like a douchebag here, but I'm certain there's a lot. Yeah, there's probably a lot that really don't. But they see they see that they see the dollar sign in there.
And
they see
let's get a rating and so forth. And absolutely,
it happens.
But let's even go the low end, say 30%. So now you have somebody that's 30% that says I have PTSD coming out of a war, but now I'm going to become a cop. Okay, and now I have to deal with
Einstein. Where's Einstein? Have Andrew Einstein call in.
Have Gunner call in instead. I love Gunner.
He's an officer that served and came in, and he had some PTSD. And his chief actually recognized it and said, "Dude, you need some help."
Yeah.
And then got him the help and actually got him another job in law enforcement. Great.
Actually,
when you look at something like
that's
that,
not the norm.
No, absolutely. It's you have the walking wounded at that point. So you have guys that are going in there that might have these issues that they've been suppressing, and now a situation happens. Look, most of us deal in a veteran status, maybe one or two major critical incidents. When you look at an officer in a 30-year career, 300-400 critical incidents in a career, if not more.
Yeah.
So what sets them off is going to be the issue.
So do you believe that police department should vet officers that have PTSD that came from a 18-year-old war from the military? Do you think the police department should tell that officer, hey, you're not qualified because you have PTSD?
You can't.
No, you can't. And at the same time, if they are getting the help, which a lot of them are, which I'm very thankful for, a lot of them are seeking out that help. They understand what's going on with them. Once they get that help, PTSD is like cancer, where cancer could go into remission. PTSD can go into remission. It requires the help with it. So cognitive behavioral therapy, sometimes medication, depending on what it is.
Right.
You put it in remission, you could have a healthy career, but that doesn't stop the critical incidents that you're going through as an officer, depending on where you are. You asked, what is it, 36,000 NYPD at this point?
Yeah,
36,000 NYPD. If we were able to, which we will never be able to, if we were able to sit all of them down and give them just a questionnaire, a simple questionnaire.
Well, that's home. My question that I tried to get before, but Christian stepped on my shit again.
But that was a great question.
That was
one of his best ever.
Ever.
I like
in a year. You had said earlier about addressing the troops before.
Yeah.
Are there programs that are pre-event?
Yep.
Like, every cop and every soldier is eventually going to probably be in a position that they may suffer from that. Are there programs in place to say,
absolutely.
all right, guys, if this goes down, this is how we compartmentalize, and this is how we're going to deal
absolutely.
to prepare them for that.
We've been doing it successfully, and there's tons of programs out there that are there. Obviously I'll throw our foundation in the mix,
which
the
is
Trauma Survivors Foundation. www.traumasurvivorsfoundation.org. Thank you. Anyway, but if you throw that in the mix, we have a program called Critical Incident Response Strategies, where we talk about officers that this is going to happen to you. I've taught in the Wilmington Police Department, Newcastle County Police Department, Newark Police Department. We go in and actually talk to the academy and say, these are the things you're going to face, and this is what you're going to experience. It's funny. A buddy of mine who's in one of the academies right now had texted me, and he goes, "Man, we had a whole slide about you." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "Yeah, man, there was a slide about you, and they all gave your cell phone number." And I said, "Look, just don't send."
That guy.
I was like, "Don't send dick pics. I'm okay as long as you don't send that." But he was saying, like, look, they really talked about how you have to take care of yourself beforehand. The military's been doing it, but the military basically comes in and says, okay, here's 14 slides, know these 14 slides, and then go out and have fun. But policing, I think, has been a little bit more proactive and started bringing those programs in. Look, CISM, Critical Incident Stress Management, was made in the late 80s and really came into favor, and especially during 9/11, ended up getting a black eye after 9/11 and so forth. But that was all post-incident. The pre-incident education is paramount. If you know what you're getting into, if you can rationalize it, if you could have the coping skills before you even do anything with it, you're going to see the lower amounts of PTSD.
All right, this is going downhill. All right, I'm getting sad. Let's talk about beer. All right, let's talk about beer. Survivors IPA. Guys, you
Honestly,
watching?
it's
good
the
stuff
best.
here.
Survivors.
Skull.
Hey, rumor has it.
Survivors
It is the
IPA.
best IPA. I'm being serious. I'm being honest.
Rumor
I'm not.
has
I'm
it.
not lying here. But honestly,
Like,
it has that
thank you.
soft flavor, low key.
It's a light IPA. Look, I will give this was an act of love, and I put it out. I put it out this way.
I can feel it.
There's love in the
Feels the
can.
love.
That's the magic ingredient is love. So Big Oyster Brewery, who's been a huge sponsor of us, is down in Lewis, Delaware. They're distributed out of NKS and Penn beer sales. Amazing people. Mike Anderson down there. I came to him with an idea. I went to 2 other breweries, and they look at me like I was half nuts. And I said, look, I want to do a charity beer. And they're like, well, what's in it for us? And I was like, well, we'll help you sell the beer. And they're like, no. And I went, all right, your beer sucks. Anyway, so we left. Mike, who Big Oyster started coming to our events, started sponsoring us, very LEO friendly. Use that word again.
I'm gonna use
LEO
that.
friendly.
I'm trademarking it. As a matter of fact, leofriendly.com.
That's it.
You better buy that right. I was gonna say.
We're going on a record.
I own like 500 domain names. It's going to be 501.
Mike comes in. I have this meeting with Mike, and I said, look, I want to do a charity beer. I said, but I want to do it the right way, right? So we developed this formula that was a higher alcohol by volume IPA. It was a 7%, 7.5% traditional IPA, which Big Oyster knocks it out of the park with them. And then this little thing called COVID and the shutdown happened. We had everything in. We had
The Rona.
The Rona was it. We had everything in, and then it shut down. And I was like, "Do you ever just have that really great moment, and then somebody comes in and ball taps you? You know, you're like, yeah, I love this girl, pow, and it's like, oh, I'm dying. You know,
Chris every night with his pillow.
I gotta go now.
It's his mattress.
that's kind of what happened. So
Sorry.
I get this call. It was April, May, something like that, May, and Mike goes, hey man, you know, and that's how he starts the conversation. I'm like,
Here we go.
Are you going to put my nose in shit on this one too? And he's like, let's reformulate it and let's go with it. And I said, what do you mean? He's like, let's make a light IPA and let's get this approved and let's get this out there. And I was like, are you shitting me? And he's like, no, let's get it done. So he comes out. This
isn't 7%, right?
This is 4.5%. It's only 120 calories per thing, so we're actually being healthy.
Chris is
right
very
now.
concerned about the caloric intake.
It's very healthy. 7 different mosaic types of hops. I mean, they did it right.
Yeah.
So the difference between this one and other IPAs and all, you could taste it. It's light, you know, whatever. So it expanded. I always said you have those folks that love the hoppy IPAs, and then you have Miller Lite drinkers. So this is somewhere in the middle, you know, that
Miller Lite, not too great.
not too keen on.
So
right?
what's the idea behind the company? What do you? What's your plan? What is Survivors IPA going to do?
So Survivors IPA does 3 things, which is really cool. So on the front of the can, wherever it is, if you see the little QR code with it, and I got to say, the first I think it was 50 cases sold out in 2 weeks. I mean, it was unbelievable how fast this went.
Yeah.
But the QR code, you go to the QR code, and it brings up our webpage. This supports our Hospital Heroes food drive, which we started during COVID. Right now, we raised $165,000 and have fed 17,000. I think it was 17,000.
And this is only in a matter of months, right?
This is months.
Wow.
17,000 healthcare workers. This started, and real quick, and
I'm in the wrong business.
Skull.
Son of a.
So
I thought cigars, man. Should have went to beer.
So
Cigars are good too, man. Don't worry about it.
We started the Hospital Heroes food drive, and look, it's real selfish. Everything starts with somebody, right? So my wife's a nurse. She works down at Jefferson. She's now with Mainline Health down in Philadelphia. I called her one day. She got moved from ICU. She got moved over to the or cardiac unit. She got moved to the COVID unit. And I called her and I said, hey, hon, did you get anything to eat? This was like a week right after the shutdown. I said, did you get anything to eat? And she goes, somebody delivered pizzas, and we didn't get any pizzas over here.
We call it pizza. Here.
Pizza. Pizza.
Because of somebody.
And I said, so you didn't get anything? She's like, no. I said, no. On this Italian Kids Watch, no, bullshit. You're getting food. And that's how it started. And then all of a sudden we started pairing with these restaurants that we would buy from to help them, and then we would deliver these meals. So if you go to hospitalheroesfooddrive.org, you'll see how it developed and how awesome it was. So 17,000. So also the beer sales go to fund 2 of our scholarship programs. One is our law enforcement scholarship program. So it's any cop, any police officer, anybody in law enforcement, their child can get a $1,000 scholarship if they are going into college, if they're a senior in high school going into college for psychology, or if they're a senior in college going to get their master's in psychology, get $1,000. And our firefighter scholarship program. It's $1,000. You get it. Look, is it going to buy you a full semester? No, but it's going to buy your books.
It's going to help.
Anything helps.
You know?
Yeah.
So
It's 1,000 less mommy or daddy has to go into the pocket.
that's
for.
how it is. Our goal with this, and our goal with Survivors IPA, and anything we come up with, is ultimately to fund full scholarships. Like my personal goal by 2022 is I want to put a law enforcement child and a firefighter child through college. That's our goal. That's
a phenomenal goal.
It is. I'm hoping we can get there. We just got to buy beer like crazy. Maybe make a bourbon, maybe make a wine.
Listen up,
anybody
cops.
out there?
Hey, somebody say bourbon.
Do you have plans of expanding your brand nationwide?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'd love to get Proud Pig on a can.
Here we go.
Don't let this bag of swine swag. Don't let this. I waited to get you on here.
This amazing bag. So I'm going to tell you right now, and I'll put it out there. So I'm going to get the link, and we're going to be on the donation page, and I'm going to put this on our donation page. So whoever goes to our QR code will be able to link up to this site. So if you want to donate,
we'll put Brothers Before Others on there.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. That'd be
Absolutely.
really nice. Thank
That's outstanding.
So you go
Thank
there, you
Dennis.
could link to that, and you could donate to that as well.
Wow.
It just brings up the donation page. Look, we're all in this shit together. We're absolutely in this shit together, and the more that we can help, and the more that somebody out there could look at that link and say, "Hey, I'm going to make a donation," the more it helps anybody. So I'm going to put that out there. Give it 2 days because
So where is it sold? Where can people come? Where can people drink Survivors IPA?
So right now it's all in Pennsylvania. We're bringing it back down to Delaware. It'll be in Delaware, and we're going to start talking to more distributors. We wanted to get it on the East Coast and get it out there. As long as Big Oyster still likes me and they still make it, we're going to get it out there.
Anywhere in South Jersey right now?
It is. We're in the works.
Okay.
We're in the works. So
Big
South
Oyster
Jersey.
is now the official IPA of the Blue Room podcast.
And why IPA versus Pilsner or an ale? Is that what the Big Oyster does? Do they only do IPAs?
No. Big Oyster has it's funny. We joke around with Big Oyster saying that I've never had a beer.
Really, you joke
that
around?
I haven't.
No way.
Just saying.
I
never joke around.
I don't get that vibe from you.
I never joke around. Well, I've always said I have never had a beer from Big Oyster that's bad. They do sours, they do lagers, they do the pilsners and so forth. But their IPA is just they're doing it right. And then they made this light IPA, and it appeals to people.
So you never had a bad IPA. I never had a bad beer from Big Oyster. You never had a bad line of duty cigar, and you've never been touched by a priest.
It's a win-win
Yeah,
situation. Right?
I'm just saying. That's what I took out of this interview.
Speaking of cigars, Tom, I'd love to have Proud Pig on a cigar as well.
Oh,
I don't have a
Jesus.
bag of swine swag for
I
you,
might
but
know a guy.
Can I get you committed to do
I might know a guy.
How about Mike? How about come up with your own cigar line, like Proud Pig cigar or
line.
something like that?
How about you shut the fuck up?
Whoa, what happened? He was going to be a guest, and now you're cursing him out?
Oh
He
my
went
God,
from being
bro!
a
Like
guest to
seriously.
being
If you
kicked
could spell
off.
cunnilingus, I will think
Be
about
appreciated for once in a lifetime. You know?
Plugs, Chris.
KUN.
Now you're not allowed to
Chris,
take the city
plugs.
ever again.
You go, Chris.
Chris, you have a
Go
live.
ahead.
You have a live read you want to do?
Oh yeah, of course. I have one live.
Oh,
read.
shit. Go ahead.
It is
the
the
only
Blue
one it is.
Magazine. The Blue Magazine is the national law enforcement. I'm sorry. It is the independent voice of law enforcement. The magazine that has endorsed President Trump. And if you're interested and want to learn more about the law enforcement community, just go to thebluemagazine.com. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Parler, and Facebook.
Nice, Johnny Blue.
Very nice.
www.proudpig.blue. If you're not patrolling with the pig, you're doing it wrong.
Mr. Burke.
50 photo.
Speaking.
Uh-oh.
50,
Here we go.
50 photo. Write it down. It's coming.
Is it 5.0 or 5.0?
50 photo.
PH
Think
or
of
F?
like Instagram,
The number 5.
but the number 5
Yes, 5.0 photo.
photo will be an app similar to Instagram for law enforcement officers only.
For now.
For now.
Will the fake Mike the Cop try to take that before the real? Did you notice, by the way, on Parler?
Wasn't he supposed to be on this show?
Now, Mike, I'm not trying to steal your plug or steal your thunder. Did you notice though that Mike the Cop tried to take all the handles on Parler, but he forgot the. He took Mike the Cop, real Mike the Cop, but he forgot the real Mike the Cop. You understand?
That
you see what's going on?
That would be me.
That's a bad move right there.
Wow.
So 5-0 photo, what's going to happen?
5-0 photo.
So
Look at
5-0
you
photo.
diving.
So this is the plan as of right now. We'll launch probably February 1st. Beta test at the beginning of January. February 1st launch date for Apple first. And then March 1st is our target date for Android.
Very nice.
5-0 photo.
Dennis?
What do you got, Dennis?
Geez, so go to Survivors.
He's got like 7 of them.
It's crazy. Go to survivorsipa.com. Go to the Trauma Survivors Foundation.org, hospitalheroesfooddrive.org, or you go to mine, DennisCarradine.com, and come to our events, donate. We're making a huge push for the Hospital Heroes Food Drive for Thanksgiving and Christmas. We want to make sure that our hospital heroes are fed, that our law enforcement and everybody has some meals from pretty awesome restaurants. So make sure you get out there and donate.
And which website is that? The one for the meals for the heroes? Or
that's the hospitalheroesfooddrive.org.
Hospitalheroesfooddrive.org. Josh in the box. What do you got?
Listen, I really don't have a plug. I just want to listen to all the guys still wearing a shield, still active. Take care of yourselves over these next couple of days, weeks, months. Things are going to get crazy.
Can I just also... I'm sorry.
No, you may not.
I just wanted to say thank you for this awesome... I would be remiss if I didn't say... I wanted to thank you for this awesome Port Authority hockey jersey.
I don't know why you would thank me for that. I mean,
Well, I want to thank whoever got me this Port Authority. I love hockey.
Looks a little big.
The real Mike the Cop. That Port Authority jersey on you is very becoming.
I like
it. Looks a little big though. I mean,
that's to hide the gap.
Have you been working out?
That's to hide the gap.
No, it looks perfect on him.
By gap, I mean gut.
Listen, if you wear a shield, please take care of yourselves. Take care of the guys next to you. Take care of your families. Beyond that, the job doesn't give a fuck about you. The administration doesn't give a fuck about you. Please, it's going to get so crazy over the next couple of weeks. Just be careful. Just be careful. We're going to, and Tommy, you can wrap it up, but we're going to be taking a break for a couple of weeks.
Thanks for letting me wrap it up. You're awesome.
Our next show is not going to be until December 3rd. The studio is undergoing a remodel. So we'll be gone for a couple of weeks. Please,
what's going to be before?
Take care of yourselves.
Oh, Josh, if I may, Saturday, November 28th at High Noon, which is a sponsor of ours, and by sponsor I mean we sponsor them.
I love High Noon.
So yeah,
I used to love High Noon before 3 Chord came along.
Peach.
So
High Noon Double Rye. Oh.
Saturday, November 28th, noon here in the studio. Second edition of Uncensored with Mike the Cop and the Unknown Detective. So tune into that, please.
Do that.
Douchebag Awards, Blue Falcon Awards, booze and beer review with Dick Whiskey, Trooper Dick Whiskey. A lot of stuff going on.
Any of it go wrong?
AGI, anybody gets it.
Does any of it go wrong?
OTB on the belly.
If you have somebody you'd like to nominate for a Blue Falcon Award, hit me up at mike@mikethecop.com. Because, Josh, I don't know if you know this, but I own MikeTheCop.
Oh, you do?
.com.
I thought, but wait, who's the real Mike?
He has
the Cop?
MikeTheCop.tv.
I'm going to go take a leak. You guys let me know when I can finish up. I'll be
Sorry, Tom.
I'll be back in like 20 minutes, right?
Sorry, Tom, but he provokes me with this shit, and I try to stay...
But no, I was just trying to figure out, because I saw a discussion on... Listen, I saw a discussion on Parler last night where they were trying to figure out who was the real Mike the Cop. They asked...
Frankie Cutlass.
They asked... Tom, this is what happens.
They asked the Mike the Cop... Wait.
They tag me in it.
They asked the Mike the Cop that was on there.
Fake the Cop.
They said,
Fake the Cop.
I'm sorry, I don't know. Is this your real handle? Because I see 2 Mike the Cop, but then I see the real Mike the Cop, which is your real handle.
And then they tag me in it. So I decide to take the high road and not respond, to only come in here and have my friend
sandbag me, get me all fucking worked up, and now I want to fight that motherfucker.
I want the ladies
I'll
listening.
give him a Judy chop.
Holidays are coming up.
A Judy chop.
Holidays are coming up. Men like to smoke cigars. Women like to smoke cigars. And we got a great cigar man.
Oh, there it goes.
That has a great company that's going to plug it right now.
Can you pass it off to him in your impersonation of a Japanese or Chinese fella?
I think it's
I
I think
want
it's
to
hear it. I think it's definitely Chinese.
Holidays are coming up real soon. So buy cigars from RhinoDutyCigar.com. He coming up right now. He going to say more about it.
Is that Rhine of Duty? Did you say Rhine of Duty?
Watermelon flavored cigar. Rhine of Duty.
All right. First off, Mike Burke, thanks for coming in. When you speak to the mic, have it directly at your mouth, not like this, because they can't hear you when you do that. If you're going to host a show, you got to get right up on that shit.
I was scarred at a very young age of having large black objects near my mouth.
Right
See, that
near
didn't
your
happen
face?
to you. You were lucky.
No,
You
You were not one of the chosen ones.
Joe Pistone, huge. Honestly, Rami Daco at General Cigars, thank you so much for the sticks. We're gonna smoke the shit out of these things. Dennis, thank you for coming in.
Absolutely.
Sharing your story and for all that you do with our community and the first responder community that really need the help. We often talk about how the mental health issues need to be addressed on the other side of the table, and that the cities and the states don't do enough to help the regular folks, the civilians with mental health issues, and that is what leads to these interactions. But no one ever really speaks about the mental health issues that law enforcement needs and the first responders need, because we're often ostracized when we say, hey, I need some help. When you say I need some help, what happens is they freeze you up, they put you on ice. Now, you're not making the overtime, you can't pay your mortgage, you've got your kids in college, so more often than not, you just shut your mouth. Because then, people start talking like, who's that boy over there in the SEALs? We won't mention his name, is going through a similar thing because he not for mental health, but he actually spoke up and he's being ostracized. So it needs to be addressed, and thank you for doing that. My plug is obviously lineofdutycigars.com, www.lineofdutycigars.com. Any event that you're doing, the cigars would be welcome at, golf outings, cigar nights. You want to give a gift to somebody, hit us up, and we'll take care of that. So with that, when's the next show? We say December what? December 3rd. December 3rd is that next show. We're taking a break to renovate here. I'm going to go kill some deer. I need some time to do whatever.
Maybe we'll have a president by then, too.
Oh, my God. We won't. We definitely won't.
Not by December 3rd, you don't think?
Jacob, what's the signal you want me to give you? Jacob, take us out, all right? Take us out, Jacob.
If you are searching for a doctor that truly cares about your overall health and well-being, contact Dr. Alex at Tri-State Health and Wellness. For more than 11 years, Dr. Alex has been treating law enforcement professionals and their families while focusing on one-on-one care so you never feel rushed. All necessary testing can be conducted during your visit, and they feature flexible hours and appointments to accommodate alternating work schedules. Tri-State Health and Wellness is conveniently located in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. Contact Dr. Alex today by visiting www.bluetristate.com. Mortgages for everyday heroes. From Michelle Hendershot and Homebridge Financial Services. If you're looking to purchase a home or refinance an existing mortgage, Michelle Hendershot can assist you every step of the way. With over 10 years of experience assisting law enforcement officers with their dream of owning a home, the choice is simple. Contact Michelle Hendershot today. Visit www.mortgagesforblue.com. Are you tired of sleeping alone each night? Feeling sluggish during the day? Is your snoring keeping your spouse awake at night? If you find yourself spending too much time on the couch, maybe it's time to visit Dr. Michael Doblin of At Home Sleep Solutions. Dr. Doblin is the preferred sleep apnea doctor of New Jersey's law enforcement officers. With the help of a custom-fitted oral device, you can finally say goodbye to noisy, antiquated sleep apnea machines. For more information and to schedule an appointment today, contact Dr. Michael Doblin. Visit www.bluesnore.com. Moment to Silence, Inc., along with Blue Suicide, is a nonprofit organization founded to support and raise awareness about the epidemic of suicides amongst law enforcement, military personnel, and first responders. For more information on how you can help, visit momentofsilenceinc.org. If you're in the market for a new vehicle or a certified used vehicle, then visit Fetty Auto Group, located at the junction of Route 46 and Route 3 in Clifton, New Jersey. Fetty Auto Group stands shoulder to shoulder with the men and women in blue. Stop by and ask for Troy Mall and ask about the offers for first responders. For more information, visit FettyAuto.com. That's FettyAuto.com. The Blue Magazine, the law enforcement publication by law enforcement professionals for the men and women of law enforcement. The unfiltered voice of law enforcement. TheBlueMagazine.com. Are you patrolling with the pig? If not, you're doing it wrong. Check out all the newest swine swag at ProudPig.blue. They are dirty by design. Check it out now. Visit www.proudpig.blue for all your swine swag. Visit www.proudpig.blue. Resumes by Joe. Owned and operated by retired NYPD second grade detective Joe Federa. With over 20 years of professional resume writing experience and focusing on translating what we do as cops into language that the corporate world can appreciate. We put an emphasis on ensuring that your cover letter and resume will be best received by the applicant tracking system used by most companies today. Check out our website at www.resumesbyjoe.com or call Joe directly at 347-992-4523. Don't forget to ask about the 50% discount for BBO members and most unions across the country. Give us the job of helping you get the job. Contact Resumes by Joe today. If you're a member of the law enforcement profession and are looking to establish long-lasting business relationships with businesses that are blue-friendly, it's time to visit visitblue.com. Visitblue.com features some of the best doctors, lawyers, realtors, as well as other service providers, such as home improvement and financial services. If you are looking for reliable, trustworthy service providers, visit visitblue.com. That's www.visitblue.com. Founded in 2014 by retired NYPD police officer Michael Burke, Brothers Before Others is a national 501c3 law enforcement charity comprised solely of both sworn and retired police officers. Since their inception, Brothers Before Others has sent floral arrangements to the services of all line-of-duty deaths, regardless of where in the country they occur. Having spent over $350,000 to date, while the National Flower Fund remains their cornerstone, their benevolence has since grown well beyond that, even into the civilian world. For more information on how to get involved or to donate, visit brothersbeforeothers.org, or you can visit their public forums on all social media platforms by searching Brothers Before Others. Founded in 2016 by professional musician Neil Giraldo, 3-Chord Bourbon has developed a process that is defined as the perfectly tuned taste, blending carefully selected whiskey bourbon and rye whiskey stocks from Kentucky, Tennessee, and Indiana. Designed to be enjoyed with friends and family, 3-Chord Bourbon will leave you with the same feeling you experience after hearing that perfect song. You'll know their whiskeys are right from the very first sip. For more information on 3-Chord Bourbon and available merchandise, visit 3chordbourbon.com. Line of Duty Cigars, owned and operated by retired NYPD Detective Tom Werther. Visit lineofdutycigars.com for our handmade Nicaraguan cigars, custom ashtrays, custom humidors, and custom flask sets. Also, when you place an order, you choose a law enforcement, first responder, or veteran charity, and Line of Duty Cigars donates 10% to that organization. Planning a special event? Contact us today. Visit www.lineofdutycigars.com.